I found your child on the balcony, so I brought her here. It was a freezing winter night when the doorbell rang. I answered it, only to find a police officer standing at my doorstep. Confused, I couldn't understand why he was here. After all, my only daughter, Susie, was sound asleep beside me. But then, I noticed the officer was holding a small girl, about 5 years old. Her lips were blue, and she was trembling from the cold. She's not my child. I don't know this girl. I tried to explain, but the officer looked skeptical. He suggested taking her to the hospital, but I couldn't shake the feeling of shock. The girl's hair was overgrown and unkempt, her clothes dirty and full of holes, as though they hadn't been washed in ages. Despite her appearance, she looked to be around Susie's age, but much thinner, almost frail. I stood there, wondering how this child ended up on my balcony. Who was she? Where had she come from? Little did I realize at that moment the chaos she would soon bring into our lives. My name is Janice, a 32-year-old office worker. I live on the first floor of an apartment that my parents gifted us, along with my high school sweetheart turned husband and our 5-year-old daughter. Susie, my husband, a company employee, frequently traveled for work, often stepping in for his colleagues even on his days off, leaving Susie and me home alone during his trips. That night, while my husband was away, and Susie and I were getting ready for bed, the doorbell rang unexpectedly. Peeking through the camera, I saw the officer. Perplexed, I opened the door, and he said something that left me frozen. I found your child on the balcony, so I brought her here. What did he mean? My daughter was safe, asleep inside. My heart raced as the officer's eyes widened in disbelief. But I was the one truly shocked. How had that little girl ended up on my balcony while I was asleep? I hadn't heard a single sound. The officer stood there, holding a girl who couldn't have been older than 5. Her lips were blue, and she was shaking uncontrollably in the freezing night air. It was so cold that it felt like snow could fall at any moment. She's not my child. I don't know this girl, I insisted, but the officer's eyes remained doubtful. After a pause, he said, I'm taking her to the hospital. The girl looked so cold, so pitiful, that I hurried to grab a warm blanket from the back room. I wrapped her in it, hoping it would offer some comfort. Her tiny hands were icy, and she seemed to be holding back tears, biting her lips without making a sound. Her hair was a tangled mess, and her stained, tattered clothes were full of holes, showing no signs of having been washed for a long time. She appeared thin and pale, as if malnourished. My mind raced with questions. Who was this child? How had she ended up on my balcony? And why? The more I looked at her, the more my heart ached, thinking of a girl the same age as my own daughter, Susie, enduring so much pain. That night, sleep eluded me. My thoughts kept returning to the little girl and the mystery surrounding her. By morning, I was exhausted, but then my phone rang. It was my husband calling from his business trip. Has anything unusual happened while I've been gone? He asked. Well, yes, I replied. A strange girl was on our balcony last night. The police took her to the hospital. To my surprise, his response was sharp. Why didn't you take care of her yourself? What? But she's a stranger. What could I have done? I stammered, confused by his sudden anger. You're a mother too, he said sternly. You should have taken care of that little girl instead of just handing her over to the police. Isn't it sad? His words left me baffled. How did he know the girl was young? I hadn't even mentioned her age. I questioned my husband, but his explanation was frustratingly vague. No, actually, she's the daughter of an acquaintance of mine. Her mother is gone, and I felt sorry for her, so I brought her yesterday. I thought you would take care of her. What? I replied in shock. You weren't on a business trip? You need to explain this clearly. He apologized, but I couldn't comprehend how he could leave such a small child on the balcony on a freezing night. Even if she was dressed warmly, she could have easily frozen to death. So, where are you now, and what are you doing? I asked, my patience wearing thin. He told me he was trying to track down the girl's mother, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. When he finally returned from his so-called business trip, he gave me some hurried explanation, picked up the girl from the police, and left her with me. Did you find her mother? What about her father? I asked. No, I haven't found them yet, he replied, evasively. And her father, well, I don't know him. But who is this acquaintance you mentioned? I pressed, hoping for clarity. Just someone I know casually. Let's leave it at that. I have another business trip soon, he said, brushing off my questions. Wait, what about this girl? I called after him, but he ignored my plea and left, leaving the girl in my care. Something felt deeply wrong about his behavior. My instincts told me there was more to the story, so I searched through his belongings. In the inner pocket of his suit, I found something that made my heart race. Shocked by what I had discovered, I quickly tried calling my husband, but he wouldn't answer. Just then, I noticed Susie and the little girl standing nearby, watching me with worried expressions. "What's your name?" I asked softly. "Ashley," she answered nervously in a small voice. She told me she was the same age as my daughter, 5 years old. When I smiled gently at her, she seemed surprised, then laughed, clutching her rumbling stomach. "You must be hungry, right?" I asked. "Yes," she replied with a shy nod. I made Hawaiian plate lunches for Susie and Ashley. They both stared at the food curiously for a moment before digging in with enthusiasm. They ate so quickly that their faces were soon covered in sauce. When I reached out with a tissue to wipe Ashley's face, she flinched, instinctively raising both hands to cover her head as if bracing herself. The gesture unsettled me. "It's okay, sweetheart," I said softly, trying to reassure her. "I'm just wiping your mouth." Ashley relaxed, lowering her hands. With a relieved expression, she let me clean her face before turning back to finish her meal, her appetite returning. Once both girls were done, they looked content and satisfied. It was clear Ashley needed a bath. Her clothes were dirty, and her skin looked like it hadn't been properly washed in days. As I started to undress her for a quick shower, I gasped involuntarily. Her small body was covered in bruises, marks that looked like she had been beaten and pinched. I tried to keep my composure, not wanting to alarm her, and gently guided her to the bathroom. While I prepared the shower, Ashley suddenly said, "It's okay, I can do it myself." Before I could react, she began washing herself with cold water. "Wait, what are you doing?" I snapped, unable to hide my shock. She looked up at me with a puzzled expression and said, "Ashley always does it like this." "With cold water?" I asked, my heart sinking. She nodded, and as she reached for the cold water again, I quickly stopped her. "No, sweetie, you need warm water," I said gently, taking over and washing her thoroughly with soap. As I poured warm water over her, she murmured, "It's warm," her eyes wide with surprise and contentment. It broke my heart to realize that she rarely showered at home, and when she did, her mother had told her to use cold water. The fact that Ashley accepted this as normal, without questioning it, made me ache for her. After the shower, I dressed her in clean clothes, still shaken by what I had discovered. I dressed Ashley in Susie's clothes and neatly arranged her hair. The transformation was remarkable. Standing next to Susie, Ashley looked like her sister. The two of them could have been twins. I couldn't help but smile warmly as I noticed how much they resembled each other, their faces reflecting a sense of innocence and sweetness. Ashley was an obedient and gentle child, and I could tell she longed for affection. She would hover near me as I cooked, tugging gently at the edge of my skirt, seeking love and comfort. At bedtime, she'd hold my hand tightly, refusing to let go. Susie, too, quickly grew fond of Ashley, and the two became inseparable, bonding like true sisters. A week passed, and still, I couldn't reach my husband. Ashley's mother had once said she knew him, but I had no other information to go on, and I couldn't keep caring for a little girl indefinitely. Reluctantly, I contacted the police. They said Ashley needed to be placed in a facility until more was known. When the day came, tears streamed down Ashley's big eyes, and my heart ached as she kept looking back at me, her gaze full of sorrow, as she was taken away. Time passed, and still, there was no word from my husband. Finally, I made a decision. 9 years later, I was living with my parents in their family home, along with Susie and Ashley. I had officially adopted Ashley after her stay in the facility. Unable to let her go, my parents treated her as their own grandchild, believing she had come into our lives for a reason. They showered her with love and affection, and Ashley thrived in our home. She and Susie grew up like sisters, blossoming into beautiful young women. Both had always dreamed of becoming models, and now that dream had come true. They were regularly featured as junior models in magazines, stepping into the glamorous world of fashion. Their radiant smiles and confidence reflected the happiness they found in each other's company. One day, the doorbell rang at our family home. When I opened the door, I was stunned to see my ex-husband, Philip, standing there, looking worn out and disheveled. Beside him was a woman who introduced herself as Joanna. Not wanting to cause a scene in front of the neighbors, I invited them inside. As soon as they sat on the living room sofa, they began speaking. "Ashley is my child," Philip said abruptly, as if those 9 years of silence meant nothing. There was no apology, no explanation for his disappearance. I let out a deep sigh, overwhelmed by his audacity. She looks just like you, I replied, still in shock. I thought she might be yours. And who is this woman, your partner? I asked, gesturing toward Joanna. Philip nodded and, without much hesitation, began telling the story of how he met her. Joanna had been working part-time at a bar that Philip frequented. Even though she knew he was married with children, they hit it off, and eventually, she became pregnant with his child. She gave birth to Ashley, but Philip couldn't make up his mind and didn't divorce me right away. Joanna, growing tired of childcare, eventually abandoned her role as a mother. In desperation, Philip thought of having me raise Ashley. It was an unbelievable story, but what surprised me even more wasn't just the tale itself. Please, give Ashley back to us. My ex-husband suddenly stood up from the sofa, his voice cracking as he made an outrageous request, tears welling in his eyes. He apologized deeply, but his words left me speechless. What? I asked, completely stunned. I saw her in a magazine. She's grown up so beautifully, hasn't she? She's even becoming popular. His tone was desperate. So what? That has nothing to do with either of you, I retorted, my frustration boiling over. But I'm Ashley's real mother, Joanna interjected. You're just the fake. After all, how dare you claim her without contacting us all these years? Her words cut deep, but I wasn't having it. How dare you? You've been gone for 9 years without a single word. Philip, now on his knees, grabbed my leg, looking utterly pathetic. We don't have any money. We're in real trouble. Ashley is our only hope. Please, give her back to us. My stomach churned at his plea. You're planning to use her to make money, aren't you? You want to live off her success. How could you even think of that? I said, disgusted. No, Philip protested. That's not fair. You're the one using Ashley to make money with her modeling career. That's not true, I snapped back. I've saved all of the money for both of the girls. Ashley is my child too, and I will never let you take her from me. Suddenly, Joanna rose from the sofa, her eyes wild, as she lunged toward me with a reckless energy that sent a shiver down my spine. Before I could react, Ashley burst into the room, throwing herself between us. She spread her arms wide, standing protectively in front of me, glaring at Joanna. What are you doing to my mom? Stop it, Ashley shouted. Ashley, you've grown so beautiful, Joanna said softly, trying to sweet-talk her. Remember me? I'm your mother. Let's go home together. But Ashley's response was clear and firm. You're not my mother. Get out of this house now. Her voice cracked, and she broke down in tears, clinging to me. Even though she had been very young when they left, it seemed Ashley's faint memories of the terrible treatment she endured had never fully faded. Ashley, dear, that's just a misunderstanding, Joanna pleaded weakly. You were so young back then. I'd had enough. I reached into my drawer and pulled out the note and photograph I had found in Philip's suit years ago. The note read, I don't want to raise a child. I can't find Ashley cute. Get rid of her somewhere. If you won't marry me, let's run away together. The photograph showed a young Ashley, covered in bruises. I also had the hospital medical report. I laid them out in front of them. Do you still claim to be her parents after seeing this? I demanded. Philip and Joanna's faces went pale. That was Philip's doing, Joanna stammered. I didn't know anything about it. I was too young to raise a child. It was inevitable. But I'll take Ashley back now, she added, her voice faltering. I stood my ground. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Ashley is home, and she's not going anywhere. I have legally adopted Ashley, so I am her parent, I said firmly. What? That has to be a lie, Joanna stammered, but the mention of the law quickly deflated her bravado. Philip, however, wasn't ready to give up. If that's the case, he said, trying to sound earnest, I'll break up with Joanna. Let's just start over. Susie and Ashley are my children. We can go back to being husband and wife. There won't be any problem, right? I stared at him in disbelief. What? You really think everything will just go your way? Like I would let that happen? My voice trembled with anger, my patience finally snapping. Listening to Philip and Joanna, I was first dumbfounded, then furious. These were people I wanted nothing to do with, not even for a second longer. I have more bad news for you, Philip, I said coldly. You and I are no longer married. What? His face drained of color. 3 years after you disappeared, I filed for divorce. The court granted it, I said, my words final. You did that on your own? Philip stammered, just as he made a move to grab my arm, but before he could touch me, The unmistakable sound of a police siren echoed outside. My parents had called the authorities after witnessing Joanna's earlier outburst. "The police are here," I said, feeling a wave of relief, "and I don't want to see either of you at this house again." Philip's face crumbled. "No, please, forgive me, I'll give up on Ashley, but at least lend me some money." His desperate plea only added to the disgrace, but I wasn't moved. Moments later, Philip and Joanna were escorted out of the house by the police. As they were dragged away, I silently vowed to make sure Philip would pay every cent of alimony and child support he owed. Cut off from their friends and family, I had no doubt they would continue to struggle, but as I watched them leave, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The turmoil of the past was finally behind me, and the little girl who once trembled in fear had grown into a radiant, confident young woman. Now, with my parents and my two loving daughters, Susie and Ashley, we could look forward to a future filled with happiness and dreams yet to be realized. We would live in peace, ready for whatever life had in store.
The cake sits untouched in front of me, 21 perfect candles burning down to stubs while the entire room erupts in a chorus of "Happy Birthday," directed at my brother Ryan. I watch the flames dance, counting each second until they melt into the pristine white frosting, much like my own celebration has melted into his. I'm Jade. Today is my 21st birthday, and I'm watching my parents throw a party for my brother's latest internship offer. Make a wish, champion. My father's voice booms across our living room, his hand clasped proudly on Ryan's shoulder. The same shoulder that's wearing the designer suit they bought him last week, while I'm still wearing the dress I bought at a thrift store with my cafe wages. This is such a proud moment. My mother gushes, her mascara slightly smudged from happy tears. Harvard Law's top internship program. We always knew you were destined for greatness. I grip my fork until my knuckles turn white. The metal bites into my palm, grounding me as the room spins with congratulatory cheers. Aunt Carol is dabbing her eyes. Uncle Steve is already talking about connections at his law firm. My cousin Sophie catches my eye from across the room, her expression a mirror of my disgust. "Speech?" someone calls out, and Ryan stands, flashing that perfect smile that's gotten him everything he's ever wanted. "I just want to thank everyone for being here today," he starts, and I can't help but notice how he's positioned himself in front of the happy birthday banner, my banner, that Mother hastily covered with congratulations streamers this morning. The words bubble up before I can stop them. Interesting timing for this celebration. The room goes quiet. Mother's smile freezes, that practiced expression she uses when trying to maintain control. "Jade, dear, let's not..." "Not what, Mother? Not mention that it's my birthday? Or not mention how you converted my celebration into Ryan's victory lap?" "You're being dramatic." Father cuts in, his tone sharp. "This is a significant achievement for the family." "The family?" I laugh, and it sounds hollow even to my ears. "You mean for Ryan. Everything's always for Ryan." Ryan at least has the decency to look uncomfortable. "Sis, come on. Don't sis me." I stand up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. 21 years of watching you get everything while I get the leftovers. Did you know I got accepted into Columbia's writing program? Of course not, because when I told them last week, they were too busy planning this party. That's enough. Father's face is turning red. You're embarrassing yourself in this family. This family embarrasses itself. I snap back. The great Derek and Laura, so focused on their golden child, they forgot they had a daughter. Well, congratulations. You've finally pushed me to my limit. Mother steps forward, her voice trembling. If you can't appreciate what we've done for this family, perhaps you should... Should what? Leave? Is that what you want to say, Mother? Finally get rid of the disappointment? If that's how you feel. Father says coldly, "There's the door." The room holds its breath. I look around at the faces. Some shocked, some embarrassed, some carefully neutral. Only Sophie and my grandmother Margaret show any sign of understanding. Fine. I grab my purse from the coat rack. Happy birthday to me. Jade. Ryan calls after me, but I'm already walking out the door. The spring air hits my face, carrying the scent of blooming cherry blossoms. The trees I used to climb as a kid while Ryan got private tennis lessons. My phone buzzes. It's Ella. Did you do it? Did you finally stand up to them? I text back with shaking fingers. It's done. Can I crash at your place? Her response is immediate. Already setting up the spare room. And Jade, I'm proud of you. I take one last look at the house, at the perfect lawn and the perfect windows with their perfect curtains, hiding the perfectly crafted lie of our family. Something shifts inside me, a switch flipping from hurt to determination. They want me gone? Fine. But they're about to learn that the daughter they never wanted is the one they should have feared the most. Ella's spare room feels like a life raft in a storm. 3 days since I walked out, and the silence of not having to measure every word, every breath, is almost deafening. I sit cross-legged on the borrowed bed, staring at my phone's black screen, counting the notifications I'm not getting from my family. Earth to Jade, Ella says, leaning against the doorframe with 2 steaming mugs. Your coffee's getting cold and your interview outfit is getting wrinkled. I smooth out the blazer laid across the bed. Sorry, just thinking about... Don't. She hands me the coffee. That's your 3rd time almost mentioning them today. We're focusing on your future, remember? The coffee burns my tongue, but I welcome the pain. It's better than the hollow feeling in my chest. The Urban Grind interview is in 2 hours. I should probably... My phone buzzes. Grandmother Margaret's name lights up the screen. Jade, darling, are you safe? I'm okay, Gran. I'm staying with Ella. Good girl. Listen carefully. I've been waiting for you to finally stand up to them. There are things you need to know, but not over the phone. Can you meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow? The usual bench? Before I can respond, I hear Mother's voice in the background. Margaret quickly adds, I have to go. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock. And hangs up. Ella raises an eyebrow. That sounded cryptic. Gran's always been different from the rest of them. She actually sees me. I stand up, straightening my blazer. But right now, I need this job. I can't keep crashing here without contributing. Please, as if I'd let you pay rent. Ella throws a cushion at me. But you're right about the job. You need your own money if you're really cutting ties. The Urban Grind sits on the corner of maple-lined Cedar Street, its brick facade warm and inviting. Inside, the interview room smells like freshly ground coffee and possibility. Your application is impressive, the manager, Sarah, says, but there's a gap in your references. No family contacts? I meet her eyes steadily. I prefer to keep my professional and personal life separate. She nods, something knowing in her expression. Fair enough. When can you start? Walking out with a job offer and training schedule, I almost miss Ryan leaning against my car. Almost. Nice ride, he says, tapping the rusty fender of my second-hand Honda. Better than walking, I guess. What do you want? To talk. You're still my sister, Jade. Funny, I don't remember you mentioning that at the party. He runs a hand through his perfect hair, a nervous tic I recognize from childhood. Look, I didn't know they were going to hijack your birthday. I tried to tell them, save it. I unlock my car door. You've never had to try for anything in your life, Ryan. Everything's just handed to you while I scrape by. Did you know they promised to pay for my college, too? Funny how that money disappeared right when your law school deposits were due. His face pales slightly. That's not... I didn't know... Exactly. You never know because you never have to look. Must be nice in that bubble of yours. Mom and Dad are worried. They want you to come home. I laugh, and it sounds bitter even to my ears. Home? That stopped being my home the day they decided I was worth less than you. Tell them I said thanks for the birthday gift. Clarity looks good on me. As I drive away, my phone buzzes with a text from Sophie. Found something in Uncle Derek's study. You need to see these papers. Can you meet tonight? I glance in my rearview mirror. Ryan's still standing there, looking lost for maybe the first time in his life. Good. Let him feel a fraction of what I've felt for years. Tomorrow, I'll meet Gran and hear whatever she needs to tell me. Tonight, I'll see what Sophie's found. The pieces are moving, and for once, I'm not just a pawn in someone else's game. Ella's waiting when I get back, victory cupcake in hand. Got the job? Start training tomorrow. I take the cupcake, but don't eat it. Ella, I need to ask you something. If this gets ugly, really ugly, are you sure you want to be involved? She takes my hand, squeezing it tight. Honey, I've watched them dim your light for years. It's about time someone helped you shine. I squeeze back, thinking of Gran's cryptic call and Sophie's message. Then let's get started. The morning air bites at my face as I hurry through Riverside Park. Gran's already at our bench, her silver hair catching the autumn light. She's holding a thick manila envelope, her fingers trembling slightly as she grips it. You look tired, darling, she says as I sit beside her. First week at the new job. Everything hurts except my pride. I try to smile, but Gran's expression stops me. What's wrong? She presses the envelope into my hands. These are copies of documents I found in your father's study last year. Bank statements, transfer records, letters, the truth about your college fund. Inside, I find papers dating back 5 years. My fingers go numb as I scan the numbers. This can't be right. There's over $200,000 here. Your grandfather set up trust funds for both you and Ryan before he died. Equal amounts. Gran's voice hardens. Your father was supposed to be the trustee until you turned 21. Yesterday. The world tilts sideways. But they said they couldn't afford my tuition. That's why I had to take out loans. They transferred your money to Ryan's account. Gradually, over years, private schools, sports camps, that ridiculous car. She takes my hand. I tried to stop it, but Derek threatened to cut off my access to the family if I interfered. My phone buzzes. Sophie calling. I ignore it, my hands shaking as I flip through more documents. Does Ryan know? No. He's as much a victim of their manipulation as you are, just in a different way. They've made him dependent, entitled. Another buzz. Sophie again. This time I answer. Jade, thank God. You need to get home right now. Your father found out I was in his study. He's destroying everything. My heart stops. What do you mean, destroying? Papers, files, everything. He knows someone's been looking into the accounts. He's in a complete panic. Gran grabs my arm. Go, now. I'll make copies of these. I drive like a woman possessed, reaching my parents' house in record time. Sophie meets me at the side door, her face pale. They're in the study. Your mom's trying to calm him down, but... A crash from upstairs cuts her off. We race up together, finding the study door locked. Open this door. I pound on the wood. I know what you did with my trust fund. Silence falls inside. Then my father's voice, eerily calm. You don't understand anything, Jade. I understand enough. $200,000, Dad. My future. You stole it. We invested it in your brother's future. The family's future. Mother's voice now, strained. Everything we did was for this family. No, I say, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. Everything you did was for Ryan. And now everyone's going to know. The door flies open. Father stands there, papers scattered around him, a wastepaper basket smoldering with half-burned documents. You wouldn't dare destroy this family's reputation. You already did that yourself. I hold up my phone, recording. And now I have proof. His face contorts. You ungrateful. Derek! Mother grabs his arm as he steps toward me. For the first time, I see fear in her eyes. Sophie slips past them into the study, quickly gathering fallen papers. I'm done covering for you, Uncle Derek. This ends now. You're both making a terrible mistake, Mother says, but her voice wavers. I laugh, and it sounds like breaking glass. No, the mistake was thinking you could get away with this forever. The mistake was believing I'd stay quiet. The mistake was forgetting that I'm your daughter, too. Father slumps against his desk, suddenly looking old. You don't understand what pressure we were under. Ryan's future? Save it for the lawyers. I turn to leave, then pause. Oh, and happy birthday to me. Finally got my inheritance after all. Outside, Sophie hands me the salvaged papers, her hands shaking. What now? My phone buzzes with a text from Gran. Document safe. Your grandfather would be proud. Now, I say, watching my parents' silhouettes in the study window. We make them face everything they tried to burn away. And we do it together. The autumn wind whips around us, carrying away the smell of burned paper and lies. For the first time since my birthday party, I feel truly, completely alive. The annual family reunion invitation sits on Ella's coffee table like a loaded gun. I've been staring at it for an hour, the gold embossing catching the afternoon light. This year's host? Ryan. It's perfect, Sophie says through my phone's speaker. Everyone will be there. The whole family will have to face what they did. I trace the embossed letters. Ryan's hosting at the lake house. That's where your grandfather signed the trust documents. Gran finishes, her voice joining Sophie's on the conference call. Derek won't expect you to know that detail. My hands shake as I pull out the trust fund papers. Have either of you told Ryan anything? He came by yesterday, Gran says, hesitating. He's different. Asked about you. About why you really left. The doorbell rings. I freeze, but Ella's already opening it. Ryan stands there, looking uncertain in a way I've never seen before. Can we talk? He glances at my phone. Alone? I end the call, nodding to Ella as she slips into her bedroom. Ryan sits across from me, his eyes falling on the papers spread across the table. I found some interesting documents in Father's study, he says quietly. About my car, my schools, your missing college fund. How much do you know? Enough to make me sick. He runs his hands through his hair, that nervous tick again. I swear, Jade, I had no idea. I thought they were just better off than they let on. They were, with my money. I'll pay it back, all of it. I've already talked to my bank about... This isn't about the money anymore. I meet his eyes. This is about years of lies. About them making you their golden child while treating me like I didn't exist. About them burning evidence when they realized I knew. He picks up the reunion invitation. That's why I'm hosting. I want you there, Jade. Help me make this right. Make it right? I laugh, but it catches in my throat. You can't just write a check and fix this. No, but I can help you expose them. His voice drops. Father's been moving money around, not just yours. There are other accounts, other families involved. Aunt Carol's kids' inheritance, Uncle Steve's business loans. My heart stops. How deep does this go? Deep enough to destroy him. To destroy them both. He pulls out his phone, showing me screenshots of bank statements. The lake house party? It's not just a reunion. Father's planning to announce his retirement, hand everything over to me. His company, his reputation, his secrets. I study my brother's face, looking for any trace of manipulation. Why are you showing me this? Because you're my sister. Because I was too blind to see what they were doing to you. Because... He swallows hard. Because I need your help to stop them before they do this to anyone else. The invitation seems to pulse with new meaning. The whole family will be there. Everyone they've ever stolen from. Everyone they've lied to. Ryan's hands clench. Help me end this, Jade. Not just for you. For all of us. I stand, walking to Ella's window. The street below is filling with evening traffic. People heading home to their normal families, their uncomplicated lives. If we do this, I say finally, we do it my way. No warnings, no chances for them to hide more evidence. Agreed. Ryan stands too. But Jade, there's something else you should know. About grandmother Margaret. My stomach drops. What about her? She didn't just find those documents last year. She's been tracking their schemes for decades, and... He hesitates. She has proof that this started before we were even born. With our real inheritance. The one our grandfather never meant for Father to control. The pieces click together. Gran's careful questions over the years, her subtle support, her determination to keep me independent. The reunion's in 2 weeks, Ryan says, heading for the door. Whatever you decide, I'm done being their puppet. After he leaves, Ella emerges. Well? I pick up the invitation, feeling its weight. Call Sophie and Gran. We need to move faster than we planned. Are you sure about trusting Ryan? I think about his nervous tick, his screenshots, the sick look in his eyes. No, but I'm sure about one thing. This just got bigger than revenge. The invitation catches the last ray of sunlight, glinting like a blade. The lake house looms ahead as I drive up the winding road, its windows reflecting the setting sun like warning signals. 3 days until the reunion, and my hands won't stop shaking. Ryan's car is already parked out front, along with Gran's old Mercedes. I find them in the study, surrounded by papers and laptops. Gran looks up first, her face tight with worry. It's worse than we thought, darling. Ryan turns his laptop toward me. Father's been moving money through shell companies for years, not just family funds, corporate accounts, client trusts, everything. The screen shows a maze of transactions, each one leading back to familiar names. Aunt Carol's children's college funds, Uncle Steve's failed business loans, Cousin Thomas's medical care money. He's built his entire empire on stolen futures. Gran says quietly. Your grandfather suspected but could never prove it. My phone buzzes. A text from Sophie. Uncle Derek just left our house. He knows something's wrong. Be careful. We need to move faster, Ryan says, running his hands through his hair. He's already started transferring assets overseas. Once that's done, he'll disappear with everything. I finish, including the proof. Gran touches a stack of old letters. There's something else. Your mother, she's not just complicit. She's been the architect of all this. The accounting, the cover-ups, the manipulations, they're all in her handwriting. The room spins slightly. I grip the back of a chair, feeling the smooth wood under my fingers. All those times she pushed me aside. She wasn't just favoring Ryan. She was protecting their scheme. Jade. Ryan's voice is strange. There's more. Look at this. He hands me a document, dated 21 years ago. My birth certificate, with an attached insurance policy. A life insurance policy. In Mother's name. She took it out the day you were born. Gran whispers. $5 million. Payable only if I died before 21. The words taste like ash. That's why they threw Ryan's party on my birthday. They were celebrating that the policy expired. That they didn't have to. The study door slams open. Mother stands there, her perfect makeup not quite hiding her fury. What are you doing here? Laura. Gran starts, but Mother cuts her off. You've poisoned them against us, haven't you, Margaret? Filled their heads with lies about their father? The only lies here are yours, I say, holding up the insurance policy. Were you disappointed when you didn't get to cash this in? Something flickers in her eyes. Not guilt, but frustration. You don't understand what it takes to build something lasting, to secure a legacy. By betting on your daughter's death? Ryan stands, his face pale. By stealing from our entire family? Everything we did was for you, Ryan, for your future. She steps forward, reaching for him. We can still protect that future. Together. Just help me gather these papers and we can... Stop. My voice doesn't shake anymore. Every word you say just proves what you really are, what you've always been. And what's that? Her smile is razor sharp. A monster who saw her children as investments. Nothing more. She laughs, and it sounds like breaking glass. Oh, darling, you have no idea what real monsters look like. But you will. She pulls out her phone. Derek, they're here. All of them. Yes, with the documents. A pause. Of course, I'm sure. It's time to implement contingency plan B. The line goes dead, and Mother's smile widens. You have 30 minutes to leave this house and forget everything you've seen. After that? She shrugs elegantly. Well, accidents do happen at lake houses, even to adults. You're threatening us? Ryan steps between her and me. Your own children? I'm protecting our legacy, as I always have. She turns to leave, then pauses. Oh, and Jade, happy belated birthday. Such a shame you won't make it to 22. After she's gone, Gran grabs her keys. We need to move. Now, get everything to my car. But I'm staring at the insurance policy, something clicking into place. No, we stay. Jade. The reunion's in 3 days. Everyone will be here. I meet Ryan's eyes, seeing my own determination reflected back. Let them come. All of them. It's time they saw what real monsters look like in the daylight. Gran touches my arm. And if your parents follow through on their threat? I pick up Mother's forgotten phone, left deliberately on the desk. Then they'll have to explain a lot more than missing money to the police, because I just recorded every word. The lake house windows darken with the setting sun, no longer reflecting warnings but promises. In 3 days, everything changes, one way or another. The lake house fills with relatives as evening falls, their chatter echoing off the walls like accusations. I stand in the corner of the great room, watching Father work the crowd with practiced charm. Mother floats between groups, her laugh just a touch too bright. Ryan hasn't arrived yet. Quite the turnout, Sophie whispers, appearing at my elbow. Aunt Carol's been crying in the bathroom. Something about Thomas's medical bills coming due. My phone buzzes. A text from Ryan. Delayed. Someone broke into my apartment. All the documents are gone. The room suddenly feels too small, too warm. I slip onto the balcony, gripping the railing until my knuckles turn white. Another buzz. Police are here. Father's name came up in their questions. Problems? Mother's voice makes me jump. She stands in the doorway, backlit by the party lights, looking more predator than parent. Such a shame about Ryan's break-in. These things happen when people don't properly secure their belongings. What did you do? Me? She sips her wine. I'm just a devoted mother, celebrating her son's success. Speaking of which, your father's about to make his big announcement. You wouldn't want to miss it. Inside, Father taps his glass for attention. Family, friends, thank you all for coming to celebrate Ryan's achievement in hosting his first family gathering. But I have an even bigger announcement. The crowd murmurs expectantly. I scan the room. No Gran, no Ryan. My chest tightens. As of tonight, I'm officially retiring, Father continues, and I'm proud to announce that Ryan will be taking over as CEO of our family enterprise. Applause breaks out. Uncle Steve raises his glass, his smile strained. To Ryan, though some of us are still waiting on those business loans you promised, Derek? All in good time, Father says smoothly. In fact, I have some papers here that should interest several of you regarding your investments. He reaches into his briefcase and pulls out a stack of documents. My heart stops. They're forgeries. They have to be. The real papers are gone, stolen from Ryan's apartment. Jade. Mother's hand closes around my arm, her nails digging in. Why don't you join me in the study? We need to discuss your future. Let go of me. Now, dear. Her grip tightens. Before you embarrass yourself again. The study door clicks shut behind us. Father's already there, along with 2 men I don't recognize. Meet our security consultants, Mother says. They're very good at handling delicate situations. Like breaking into Ryan's apartment? Father sighs. Ryan made his choice. Disappointing, but manageable. You, however? He nods to one of the men, who moves to block the door. You've become a liability we can no longer afford. The insurance policy expired, I say, backing away. You can't... Oh, darling. Mother laughs. There are so many ways to have accidents, especially at lake houses, especially after drinking too much at family gatherings. A glass appears in her hand. My glass from earlier. Your fingerprints, your DNA. Combined with your history of emotional instability and recent erratic behavior, the second man steps forward, something glinting in his hand. My back hits the wall. Why? My voice cracks. I'm your daughter. No, Father says quietly. You're a mistake I should have corrected years ago. The door bursts open. Ryan stands there, bloody and disheveled. Police are on their way. I triggered the silent alarm when I saw your security consultants following me. Ryan, Mother starts, but he cuts her off. Save it. I heard everything. He holds up his phone. And so did the detective who's been investigating your financial fraud for the past year. Sirens wail in the distance. The security men exchange glances, then slip out a side door. Father's face contorts with rage. You ungrateful... He lunges for Ryan. I move without thinking, grabbing the heavy paperweight from his desk. The impact drops him to his knees. Mother screams, but it's drowned out by the sound of breaking glass and shouting from the great room. Gran's voice rises above the chaos. The real documents are being projected on the wall right now. Every transaction, every theft, every lie. Father struggles to his feet, blood trickling from his temple. You've destroyed everything. No, I say, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. You did that yourself. Years ago, when you decided money was worth more than your children's love. The sirens grow louder. Mother backs away, her perfect mask finally cracking. Derek, the offshore accounts are frozen, Ryan finishes, along with everything else. Blue lights flash through the windows as police cars fill the driveway. I look at my parents, really look at them, and feel nothing but pity. Happy retirement, Father, I say, and walk out to face whatever comes next. The great room erupts into chaos as the projector displays decades of financial records across the wall. Aunt Carol collapses into a chair, Uncle Steve hurls his glass across the room, and cousins I haven't spoken to in years start shouting all at once. Father stands frozen at the front of the room, his retirement speech forgotten. Mother's perfect smile cracks like thin ice. Those documents are fabricated, she announces, but her voice wavers. This is nothing but a desperate attempt by our jealous daughter to... To what, Mother? Tell the truth? I step forward, Ryan at my side. About how you stole from everyone in this room? About the life insurance policy you took out on me? About how you were willing to kill your own daughter tonight to keep your secrets? The room falls silent. Even the police officers who just entered pause, hands on their weapons. Everything we did. Father starts, then stops as Gran walks in, carrying a familiar leather briefcase. Is that what you told yourself, Derek? When you forged your father's signature on those trust documents? She opens the briefcase, pulling out yellowed papers. Or when you and Laura orchestrated my husband's accident after he threatened to expose you? Mother's composure shatters. You can't prove... Actually, she can. Ryan's voice is steel. Grandfather's original autopsy report, the one you buried, the one showing poison in his system. Father lunges for the briefcase, but the police are faster. As they read him his rights, he locks eyes with me. You ungrateful child, he spits. We gave you everything. No. My voice doesn't shake anymore. You took everything. My inheritance, my education, my childhood. You even tried to take my life. We were protecting the family legacy. Mother shrieks as an officer approaches her. Everything was for this family. Was it? I gesture to the room, to the devastated faces of our relatives. Look around, Mother. Look at all the lives you've destroyed. The children who couldn't afford college, Thomas's medical bills, Uncle Steve's failed business. All so you could build Ryan into your perfect heir. I never wanted that. Ryan steps forward. I never wanted any of it. Mother's face twists. Then you're as weak as she is. All our sacrifices wasted on... Sacrifices? I laugh, and it sounds like breaking chains. You sacrificed nothing. You stole, you lied, you murdered. And for what? To feel powerful? To play God with other people's lives? You don't understand what it takes to build something lasting. Father says, echoing Mother's words from earlier. But now they sound hollow, desperate. I understand perfectly. I pull out my phone, playing the recording of their threats in the study. I understand that you're not parents. You're not even human. You're just empty shells so afraid of losing control that you destroy your own children to keep it. As the police lead them away, Mother turns back one last time. This isn't over, Jade. Families like ours don't air their dirty laundry. No one will believe. Everyone already believes. Sophie points to the windows where news vans are pulling up. The whole story's going live right now. Every transaction, every threat, every crime. Father slumps in defeat, but Mother struggles against the officers. You've destroyed everything. No, Mother. I watch as they're led away, feeling nothing but a profound emptiness. I've set everyone free, including myself. The room buzzes with shocked conversations and legal discussions. Aunt Carol hugs me, crying about finally being able to send her kids to college. Uncle Steve talks with the detective about recovering his stolen funds. Thomas's mother thanks me through tears. Ryan touches my arm. You okay? I don't know. I look around at the wreckage of our family's facade. Are any of us? We will be. Gran appears beside me, her eyes fierce with pride. Your grandfather would be proud, darling. You've done what he couldn't, exposed the truth. The truth, I repeat, tasting the word. It feels different now, less like revenge and more like justice. What happens next? Next? Sophie joins us, linking her arm through mine. We rebuild, but this time on a foundation of truth. Through the windows, I watch my parents disappear into separate police cars. The life they built on lies crumbles behind them, but in its ruins, I see something unexpected. Hope. Not just for me, but for everyone they hurt. The lake house stands silent, its secrets finally exposed to the light. And in that light, I find something I never expected to feel. Freedom. The courthouse steps feel colder than they should in spring. I watch my parents being led away in handcuffs, their designer clothes replaced by prison orange. Mother doesn't look back. Father does, just once, and in his eyes I see something I've never seen before. Understanding. The court's decision to seize their assets means everyone they stole from will be compensated. Ryan says beside me, his voice steady. Thomas's medical bills, Aunt Carol's kids' college funds, Uncle Steve's business loans, everything. Almost everything. I touch the envelope in my pocket. Gran's final revelation. Did you know she'd been tracking their scheme since before we were born? That she'd been secretly moving money into trust funds for both of us? He shakes his head. She protected us in her own way, just like you protected everyone by exposing the truth. Inside the envelope, photographs show a younger version of our grandmother, standing beside our grandfather at the lake house. Their smiles are genuine, untainted by the greed that would later poison our family. I found this in Father's study. I hand Ryan a letter, its edges worn. It's from Grandfather, written the day before he died. He knew what they were doing. He was going to stop them. And they killed him for it. Ryan's hands shake as he reads. All these years, I thought. We both thought what they wanted us to think. I take the letter back, feeling its weight. But Gran knew. She waited, gathered evidence, protected us until we were ready to face the truth. A familiar voice calls out, Jade! Ella runs up the courthouse steps, waving a newspaper. You need to see this. The headline reads, Family Empire Falls, Whistleblower Daughter Exposes Decades of Fraud. Below it, a smaller headline, Margaret Chen's Secret Legacy, How One Grandmother Protected Future Generations. There's more, Sophie says, appearing with her laptop. People are coming forward, other families, other victims. Your parents' scheme went beyond just our family, and now they can't hurt anyone else, I say. But the victory feels different than I imagined. Hollow, yet somehow fuller. Gran joins us, her silver hair catching the sunlight. Your grandfather used to say that family legacies aren't built on money or power. They're built on truth and love. I thought this was about revenge, I admit. About making them pay for what they did to me. But it was never just about me, was it? No, darling. She takes my hand. It was about breaking a cycle, about choosing what kind of legacy you want to leave. Ryan stares at the courthouse doors. What do we do now? The company, the properties, everything they built. We rebuild, I say, surprising myself. Not their way, with lies and manipulation, but honestly. Together. Together, Sophie echoes, linking arms with me. The whole family, the real family. Ella hugs me tight. See? I told you you'd find your strength. But as I look around at these people, my brother who chose truth over privilege, my grandmother who protected us silently for years, my cousin who stood by me, my friend who never wavered, I realize something. I didn't find my strength, I say quietly. It was here all along, in the family I chose, the family that chose me back. A police officer approaches with one last document to sign, my final statement about the case. As I take the pen, I notice my hand doesn't shake anymore. Jade, Ryan says suddenly, look. Through the courthouse windows, I see the lake house in the distance, its windows no longer reflecting warnings but possibilities. And beside it, almost hidden by trees, a small building I never noticed before. Your grandfather's old study, Gran explains, where he kept his real records. There's something there you both need to see. Something about your true inheritance. More secrets? I ask, but without bitterness. She smiles, and it holds both sadness and hope. No, darling. No more secrets. Just truth. And perhaps a different kind of legacy to build. The spring breeze carries the scent of new beginnings as we descend the courthouse steps. Behind us, justice has been served. Ahead, something else waits. Not an ending, but a transformation. I take one last look at the newspaper headline, then let it blow away in the wind. Some stories don't need to be written in papers. They're written in the choices we make, the truths we face, and the love we choose to give. Even when, especially when, it's not the easy choice.
The shrimp scampi glistened on my plate, innocent and deadly. I stared at it, my throat already starting to close up, while my mother-in-law, Evelyn, beamed from across the table with what anyone else might mistake for genuine warmth. My name is Victoria, and I was about to find out just how far a mother would go to keep her son. I specifically asked about shellfish, I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. The first hints of panic crept in as I felt the familiar tingle on my lips. You promised me it was safe. Ryan's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. Mom, you knew about Victoria's allergy. We've talked about this dozens of times. Evelyn's perfectly manicured fingers fluttered to her chest. Oh dear, did I forget? I could have sworn you said it was just a mild sensitivity. You've been so particular about everything since the pregnancy. The EpiPen. Where was my damn EpiPen? I fumbled through my purse, the room starting to spin. The baby kicked, as if sensing my distress. It's never been mild, Ryan snapped, pushing back from the table. Where's your EpiPen, Vic? Martin, my father-in-law, watched the scene unfold with quiet horror from his end of the table. Nathan, Ryan's brother, seemed more interested in his wine glass than the fact that I was struggling to breathe. I must have left it in the car, I wheezed. Stupid mistake. Never trust Evelyn's cooking. How many times had Claire warned me? I'll get it, Ryan said, already halfway to the door. Really, Victoria, Evelyn sighed, dabbing her lips with a napkin. Perhaps if you weren't so anxious all the time, these things wouldn't happen. Stress isn't good for the baby. The room tilted sideways. My hands clutched the edge of the table, knuckles white. Through the growing fog, I caught the slight upturn of Evelyn's lips, that flash of satisfaction in her eyes, before concern masked it. Someone call an ambulance, Martin finally spoke up, his voice cutting through the chaos. I felt hands guiding me to the floor, heard Ryan's panicked return, the sharp sting of the EpiPen in my thigh. As the medication fought against my closing airways, one thought crystallized with perfect clarity. This wasn't a mistake. The next few hours passed in a blur of emergency room lights and monitors. Ryan never left my side, his face etched with worry and something else. Doubt, maybe, or the first cracks in his unwavering defense of his mother. The baby's fine, the doctor assured us for the third time. But Mrs. Henderson, you need to be more careful. With your severity of allergies, even cross-contamination could be fatal. I nodded, but my mind was elsewhere, replaying the dinner scene. The way Evelyn had insisted on serving me herself, how she'd watched, waiting, as I lifted that first forkful. "I swear, Vic, I'll talk to her," Ryan said once we were alone. "This can't happen again." I turned to look at him, really look at him, wondering if he could see what I already knew. "It wasn't an accident. Don't say that. Mom would never, wouldn't she?" My hand rested on my swollen belly, protective. "Think about it, Ryan. She's never accepted me, and now there's a baby coming. A baby that will take even more of your attention away from her." He shook his head, but I saw the doubt in his eyes deepen. "That's crazy. She's not capable of murder." The word hung between us like poison. "Maybe not, but she's definitely capable of sending a message." The hospital room fell silent except for the steady beep of monitors. Outside, a nurse walked past, her shoes squeaking on the linoleum floor. Ryan's phone buzzed, probably Evelyn, checking to see if her plan had worked. "I won't let her hurt you again," he finally said, but we both knew it wasn't that simple. I closed my eyes, exhausted but mind-racing. If Evelyn wanted a war, she'd get one, but this time I'd be ready. This time, I'd make sure she understood exactly what it meant to mess with a mother protecting her child. 3 days after the dinner incident, I sat in Claire's kitchen, watching her pace with the kind of righteous anger only best friends can muster. The afternoon sun caught the silver highlights in her dark hair as she moved, making her look like she was crackling with electricity. "She tried to kill you," Claire said for the 3rd time, slamming her coffee mug down. "And Ryan's still making excuses?" I traced the rim of my own mug, remembering the conversation with my husband that morning. "He says we need to give her another chance, that she's been under stress lately." "Stress?" Claire's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. "I've treated patients under stress. They take up yoga, not attempted murder." My phone buzzed. Another message from Evelyn. "Just checking on my favorite daughter-in-law. Those pregnancy hormones can make anyone overreact. Let's have tea tomorrow and talk." I showed Claire the message. Her eyes narrowed as she read it, professional assessment mixing with personal fury. "Classic gaslighting. She's trying to make you doubt yourself." "It's working on Ryan," I admitted. "This morning, he suggested maybe I did overreact. That may be cross-contamination." "Stop." Claire grabbed my hands across the table. "You know what cross-contamination looks like. You've lived with this allergy your whole life. Trust your instincts." The baby kicked, as if agreeing. I pressed a hand to my stomach, remembering the fear in the emergency room, not just for myself, but for my child. "Ryan's coming to the next ultrasound. Evelyn offered to come too." "Absolutely not." "That's what I said, but Ryan thinks it would help us bond." Claire's phone chimed, her reminder for her hospital shift. As she gathered her things, she fixed me with the same look she probably gave difficult patients. "Document everything. Every text, every call, every accidental incident. Build your case." After she left, I sat alone in her quiet kitchen, thinking about patterns I'd dismissed over the past 3 years. The wedding cake that mysteriously contained almond extract, despite our explicit instructions. The Christmas dinner where Evelyn forgot to tell me about the seafood stuffing. Small things, easily explained away, building to this. My phone buzzed again. "Ryan." "Mom wants to apologize properly," he said when I answered. "She's planning a special dinner. No." The word came out harder than I intended. "Vic, she feels terrible. She's crying." "Of course she is." I stood up, needing to move. "Ryan, think about it. Why would she plan another dinner when I just had an allergic reaction? Why not just call or visit?" Silence stretched between us. When he spoke again, his voice was strained. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your mother is playing a game and you're letting her. That's not fair." His architect voice now, the one he used when presenting difficult concepts to clients. "She's trying to make amends. By putting me in the exact same situation. That's not making amends. That's testing boundaries." More silence. I could almost see him at his office, running his hands through his hair the way he did when stressed. Finally. Come to dinner, please, for me. I'll check everything myself, I promise. No. I gathered my things, heading for my car. I love you, Ryan, but I won't put our baby at risk to make your mother feel better. Vic, I have to go. I have a client meeting. A lie, but I needed space to think. As I drove home, another text from Evelyn arrived. Ryan tells me you're still upset. I raised him to be more forgiving than this. I hope pregnancy isn't affecting your judgment too much. I pulled over, my hands shaking as I read it again. The subtle dig about raising Ryan, the implied criticism of my maternal instincts, the continued suggestion that I was being irrational, all perfectly crafted to drive a wedge between us. Claire was right. I needed evidence. Opening my phone's notes app, I started documenting everything I could remember, starting with the wedding cake. 3 years of accidents and misunderstandings filled the screen. Looking at it all laid out, I felt something shift inside me. Not just anger or fear, but clarity. Evelyn had declared war the moment I married her son, and I'd been too busy trying to keep the peace to notice. Well, if she wanted war, I'd give her one. But first, I needed allies. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Martin's number. It was time to have a conversation with my father-in-law about his wife's cooking habits. Martin met me at a coffee shop across town, far from any of Evelyn's usual haunts. His hands trembled slightly as he stirred his coffee, the spoon making tiny circles that seemed to echo his hesitation. I should have spoken up sooner, he said, his engineer's precision making each word deliberate. The Christmas when Nathan's wife left, that wasn't just about their marriage problems. I leaned forward, my untouched decaf growing cold. What do you mean? Sarah had a peanut allergy. Not as severe as yours, but... He set the spoon down with a soft clink. There was an incident. Evelyn insisted it was an accident. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Sarah left right after Christmas dinner. Nathan never questioned it. He always sides with his mother. Martin's eyes met mine, carrying years of silent witness. But I saw Evelyn in the kitchen that day. She was particular about which plates went where. My phone buzzed, another text from Ryan. Mum's really trying, Vic. She's even taking a cooking class focused on allergy awareness. I showed Martin the message. His laugh was hollow. She took a similar class after the Sarah incident, made a big show of it. Does Ryan know about Sarah? Nathan told him it was about the affair, the one that never actually happened. Martin pulled out his wallet, extracting a folded piece of paper. I've kept records, dates, incidents, patterns. I'm an engineer. We document everything. My hands shook as I unfolded it. Detailed notes spanning 15 years. Family members who'd challenged Evelyn. Subsequent accidents. Careful observations of her behavior. The methodical documentation of a man who'd watched helplessly as his wife systematically eliminated threats to her control. Why didn't you stop her? I tried once. He rolled up his sleeve, revealing a faint scar. Carbon monoxide leak in the garage. Another accident. After that, I started documenting instead of confronting. The baby kicked hard, making me wince. Martin noticed. She's escalating because of the baby, he said quietly. A grandchild she can't control. Born to a mother she can't manipulate. My phone buzzed again. Evelyn this time. Found the perfect recipe for your baby shower. Don't worry, I'm being extra careful about ingredients. Ryan says you're still not returning my calls. Pregnancy can make us so emotional, can't it? Something in me snapped. I pulled up the photos I'd been gathering, screenshots of her texts, pictures from past events, medical records from my ER visit. I'm building a case, I told Martin. I need your help. He stared at his coffee cup for a long moment. It won't be enough. Evelyn was a principal for 30 years. She knows how to cover her tracks, how to make others doubt their own perceptions. Why do you think Nathan still believes Sarah cheated? Then what do I do? Wait for her to succeed? No. He slid his notes across the table. You fight smarter. Use her patterns against her. I studied the papers more carefully, seeing what he meant. Every incident had a similar structure. The subtle undermining, the public display of concern, the way she turned witnesses into unwitting accomplices. "The baby shower," I said slowly. "She's already setting it up." Martin nodded. "She'll want to host it. Control the food, the guests, the narrative. Unless someone else already planned it." I pulled out my phone, texting Claire. "Need your help with something big. Be careful," Martin warned. "Evelyn's most dangerous when she feels trapped." "So am I." I gathered the papers, tucking them safely away. And unlike Sarah, I have proof, and witnesses. As if on cue, my phone lit up with Claire's response. "Already on it. Got some interesting info from a nurse who worked with your MIL years ago. Call me ASAP." Martin stood to leave, then hesitated. "Victoria, Ryan's a good man, but he's been under her influence his whole life. Whatever you're planning..." "I know." I rested my hand on my stomach, feeling the baby move. "But this isn't just about me anymore." He nodded once, understanding. As he walked away, my phone buzzed with another message from Ryan. "Mum's crying again. Please just talk to her." I started typing a response, then stopped. Instead, I forwarded him a single photo. The hospital monitor from the night of the dinner, showing our baby's heartbeat racing as my body fought the allergic reaction. Sometimes the truth needs no words. And sometimes, the most effective revenge is simply bringing secrets into the light. I opened my notes app and added one more entry. Time to let Evelyn host that baby shower after all. I found the pregnancy test in Evelyn's bathroom trash can while searching for aspirin during a mandatory Sunday brunch. Pink lines still visible, receipt from yesterday crumpled beside it. My hands shook as I snapped a photo, mind racing through possibilities, each worse than the last. Claire's voice echoed in my head. "Document everything." Downstairs, Ryan and his mother were looking at old photo albums, her voice carrying up the stairs in that honeyed tone she used when strengthening her hold on him. I pressed my hand against my 7-month bump, fighting waves of nausea that had nothing to do with pregnancy. My phone buzzed. A text from Nathan's number, but the message stopped me cold. "This is Sarah. We need to talk. Today." I typed back quickly. "Corner cafe on 5th, 1 hour." Descending the stairs, I caught the end of Evelyn's conversation. "And then we'll convert the guest room into a proper nursery. That way I can help more with the baby." "Actually," I interrupted, "we've already started the nursery at home." Evelyn's smile tightened. "But you'll need help, dear. First-time mothers always do." Ryan squeezed my hand. "Mum's just trying to help, Vic. I know exactly what she's trying to do." The words came out sharper than intended. I grabbed my purse. "I have to go. Client meeting." "On Sunday," Evelyn's eyebrows rose with practiced concern. "You're working too hard. It's not good for..." "The baby. Yes, I know. You never let me forget." Outside, the autumn air bit through my jacket. I drove to the cafe in a daze, the pregnancy test photo burning a hole in my phone. Sarah was already there, looking nothing like the woman in Martin's old photos. Her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like it was a lifeline. "I saw your name in the hospital records," she said without preamble. "Shellfish allergy, just like my peanut allergy." Martin told me about Christmas dinner. Sarah's laugh was bitter. "That was just the final act. Did you know Evelyn kept a detailed food diary when I was pregnant? Tracking everything I ate, suggesting what was best for the baby." My blood ran cold. "Did you..." "Lose the baby? Yes." Her knuckles went white around the cup. "Severe allergic reaction at 7 months. Everyone said it was my fault for not being careful enough." Nathan believed her, of course. "I'm so sorry. I'm not here for sympathy." She pulled out her phone, showing me a social media post from Evelyn, a photo of baby clothes with the caption, "Can't wait to help take care of my new grandbaby." "She's already claiming your child," Sarah said softly, "just like she tried to claim mine." The pregnancy test, the nursery comments, the constant undermining. Pieces clicked together with terrifying clarity. Why are you telling me this now? Because I ran. Sarah's eyes met mine. I ran, and I lost everything. My marriage, my family, my chance to be a mother. Don't make my mistake. Fight. My phone buzzed again. Ryan, where are you? Mum's worried. Of course she is, I muttered. Sarah reached across the table, her grip surprisingly strong. Be careful. The more evidence you gather, the more dangerous she'll become. She's not just trying to control you anymore. She wants your baby. I won't let that happen. No, Sarah agreed. You won't, because you have something I didn't. What's that? Me, Martin, Claire, witnesses who know the truth. She stood, leaving a business card behind. And you have these. She pulled out a USB drive. Copies of every email, every text, every accident report from my pregnancy. I kept them all, even after I left. Maybe I was waiting for someone like you. Later, sitting in my car, I stared at the pregnancy test photo again. Then I pulled up my messages to Ryan, fingers hovering over the keys. Instead of texting, I called Claire. I need you to run a test for me, I said when she answered. Check if someone's been tampering with my prenatal vitamins. You think? I don't think anymore, I know. I started the car, decision crystallizing. And I need you to help me set a trap. What kind of trap? I thought of Sarah's haunted eyes, of Martin's careful documentation, of the baby growing inside me. The kind that ends this, once and for all. Claire's lab results arrived while I was setting up my trap. Your prenatal vitamins were laced with trace amounts of shellfish extract, she said, her voice tight with controlled fury. Not enough to cause a severe reaction, but enough to keep you slightly ill. To make you look unstable. The baby kicked as I stared at the nursery walls, half painted in soft yellows. Ryan's careful architectural sketches for the room layout still hung by the door, mocking me with their innocence. The baby shower's tomorrow, I said. Everything ready? Sarah's agreed to come. Martin's bringing the evidence. I've got 3 nurses from my unit who worked with Evelyn, ready to testify about past incidents. Claire paused. Are you sure about this? Going public at your own baby shower? It's what she'd least expect. I touched the small camera hidden in my necklace. And she'll be performing for an audience. My phone lit up with Evelyn's message. Just finished the special cake for tomorrow. Use that lovely almond extract you like. I showed Claire the text. See, she's already setting it up, making sure everyone knows I specifically requested almond extract, even though your medical records clearly show a tree nut sensitivity. Claire's typing echoed through the phone. Adding it to the evidence file. A key turned in the front door, Ryan coming home early. I quickly ended the call, but not before hearing Claire's final warning. Remember, if anything feels wrong tomorrow. Victoria? Ryan's voice carried up the stairs, worried. Always worried lately. Mum says you haven't confirmed the final guest count. I met him in the hallway, studying his face. The dark circles under his eyes matched mine, his architect's precision crumbling under the weight of divided loyalties. I was just looking at the nursery, I said instead of answering. Remember when we first designed it? He smiled, some tension easing. You shot down all my modern minimalist ideas, because babies need warmth, not concrete and glass. I took his hand, pressing it against my belly where our child moved. Ryan, what if something happened to me? His body stiffened. Nothing's going to happen. But if it did, would you let your mother raise our baby? That's not. Would you? I pulled away, needing to see his face clearly. Would you trust her with our child's life? Something flickered in his eyes. Doubt, maybe, or memory. You're upset about the vitamins. My heart stopped. You know? Mom mentioned you might be paranoid about them. She suggested we switch brands, but did she suggest the brand? His silence was answer enough. I walked back into the nursery, running my fingers over the crib rail. Sarah lost her baby at 7 months. Did you know that? Nathan said she was careless about her allergies. Is that what Evelyn told him to say? Ryan's hands gripped the doorframe. Why are you doing this? Because tomorrow your mother's either going to watch me eat that almond cake or watch me refuse and prove I'm being difficult again. I turned to face him fully. Which do you think she's planning on? Stop. Your father keeps records, Ryan, of everything. Every accident, every convenient allergic reaction, every person who's ever challenged her control. I said stop. His shout startled us both. In the sudden silence, he looked lost, almost afraid. Just come to the shower, please. Show everyone you're not. Not what? Paranoid? Unstable? Unfit to be a mother? Before he could answer, both our phones chimed. Evelyn had posted in the family group chat a photo of herself in the kitchen, surrounded by shower preparations, beaming with manufactured joy. The caption read, "Can't wait to take care of my girls tomorrow. And blessed grandma." Ryan stared at his phone, then at me, something finally shifting in his expression. She hasn't posted anything about the baby being a girl. We haven't told anyone yet. No, I agreed quietly. We haven't. He sank down onto the rocking chair we'd picked out together, head in his hands. After a long moment, he looked up, and I saw my husband again, not Evelyn's son. "Tell me everything," he said. "From the beginning." I pulled out my phone, showing him the growing evidence file. It started long before me, and if we don't stop it now, it'll never end. Tomorrow would change everything, but tonight, watching Ryan finally see the truth, I realized this wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about breaking a cycle, about protecting not just our child, but every future victim of Evelyn's love. The baby shower cake sat in the center of Evelyn's dining room like a beautiful poison. Guests clustered around it, admiring the delicate frosting work, the perfectly piped roses. Only Claire, stationed nearby with an EpiPen in her purse, knew about the almond extract hidden beneath the sweetness. "Time for the mother-to-be to cut the cake." Evelyn's voice carried across the room, drawing everyone's attention. Her eyes met mine, a challenge wrapped in concern. "Unless you're still feeling unwell, dear." The hidden camera in my necklace felt heavy. Sarah stood in the corner, a ghost from Evelyn's past come back to haunt her. Martin's evidence file waited on my phone. Everything was in place, but something was wrong. Ryan wasn't here. He'd left early this morning, saying he needed time to think. Now his absence screamed danger. "Victoria?" Evelyn pressed the knife into my hand. "Everyone's waiting." Claire shifted closer. "We can still stop this." But I saw the phones already raised, ready to record what Evelyn had orchestrated. Either I'd eat the cake and suffer an allergic reaction, proving her point about my carelessness, or I'd refuse and appear paranoid, confirming her whispers about my mental state. "Before we cut the cake," I said, my voice carrying in the sudden quiet, "I'd like to share something." Evelyn's smile flickered. "The cake will get warm, dear. It can wait." I pulled out my phone, fingers trembling slightly. "I have some interesting photos to share first." The front door opened. Ryan walked in, but he wasn't alone. Nathan followed, carrying a familiar-looking box. "Mom," Nathan's voice cracked, "I found these in your study." My heart stopped. The box contained dozens of EpiPens, carefully labeled with dates and names. Sarah's, mine, others. "I can explain," Evelyn started, but Nathan wasn't finished. "There's more." He pulled out a notebook. Records of every reaction, times, doses, symptoms, like some sick experiment. The room erupted in whispers. Evelyn's face transformed, masks dropping away like autumn leaves. "You don't understand," she said, her voice taking on an edge I'd never heard before. "I had to know I could take care of them, had to be sure I could handle any emergency." "By causing them?" Ryan's voice shook. "I protected them." Evelyn's composure shattered completely. "Sarah was reckless. Victoria's unstable. The baby needs—" "The baby?" My hand went protectively to my stomach. "What did you do to my vitamins?" "Nothing permanent." Her smile turned savage. "Just enough to keep you dependent, To show Ryan you needed help, my help. The room spun, not just the vitamins, every cup of tea, every meal she'd insisted on preparing. How long? I whispered. Since the wedding. She stepped closer, reaching for my belly. I had to be sure you were worthy, that you could handle it, and you failed, every time. But don't worry, I'll take care of everything now. Claire moved to intervene, but Evelyn was faster. She grabbed the cake knife from my hand, brandishing it with the expertise of someone who'd planned this moment. Nobody moves, she said pleasantly. Victoria and I are going to take a little drive, to somewhere quiet where we can wait for the baby properly. Mom, stop. Ryan's voice was steady now, certain. It's over. It's never over. Her laugh was brittle. Ask Sarah, ask any of them. I always win. The knife pressed against my side, hidden from the guests by her body. In her eyes, I saw something worse than hatred or anger, absolute conviction. The baby's a girl, she whispered in my ear. I've already picked her name. The room tilted sideways. All my careful plans, the evidence, the witnesses, none of it mattered. I'd underestimated her desperation, her willingness to destroy everything to maintain control. Move toward the door, she murmured, slowly. I caught Claire's eye, saw her reach for her phone, but Evelyn saw too. The knife pressed harder. One call, she warned, and we'll see how well Victoria handles stress in her condition. As she guided me toward the door, I realized with horrible clarity, this wasn't just about exposing her anymore. This was about survival. And somewhere in this house full of witnesses, I had to find a way to save not just myself, but my daughter, from a woman who would rather destroy us both than lose control. Evelyn's hand trembled against my back as she guided me through the kitchen, past the shocked faces of party guests. The knife pressed harder when Ryan moved to follow. Stay there, sweetheart, she called out, her principal's voice still perfectly controlled. Victoria and I just need some girl time. The baby kicked, hard enough to make me gasp. Evelyn mistook it for fear, her grip loosening slightly. See, she knows her grandmother. That's when I saw it. The reflection in the kitchen window. Martin, moving silently through the side door. All those years of staying quiet, watching, documenting, he'd learned how to become invisible to her. Tell me about the others, I said, playing for time. The ones before Sarah. They were weak. Evelyn's voice took on a dreamy quality. Unable to handle the responsibility. But you lasted longer than most. Even with the vitamins, the food, the little tests that could have killed my baby. To make you stronger. The knife shook against my ribs. Everything I did was to protect this family, to ensure only the worthy remained. Martin was closer now. I caught Claire's eye through the doorway, saw her slight nod. Whatever happened next, they were ready. Is that what happened to your baby? The words hit like a thunderbolt. Evelyn's grip tightened painfully. Who told you? She hissed. Your medical records. Claire's voice rang out clear. From 40 years ago, the baby you lost because your mother-in-law decided you weren't worthy. The knife clattered to the floor. Evelyn's hands went to her throat, a gesture I'd seen before, when I was gasping for air at her dinner table. She tested me too, Evelyn whispered, over and over, until I failed, until I lost everything. So you became her. Martin's quiet voice behind us made Evelyn spin around. You turned into the very thing that destroyed you. I made them stronger. But her voice cracked, the facade crumbling. I had to know they could survive. By poisoning them. Ryan stepped forward, phone in hand. We have it all, Mom. Every test, every accident. The police are on their way. Evelyn lunged for the knife, but I was ready. Months of rage and fear crystallized into a single moment of clarity. I kicked it away, watching it skid under the refrigerator. You don't understand, she sobbed, but her eyes darted toward the drawer where I knew she kept her backup plan. More EpiPens, more ways to control through crisis. I understand perfectly. My voice was steady now. You're not testing us. You're punishing us for a crime we didn't commit. For a loss that wasn't our fault. She moved like lightning, yanking open the drawer, but Sarah was faster, having slipped in during the chaos. The drawer was empty. "Looking for these?" Sarah held up a plastic bag full of EpiPens. 40 years of weapons, Evelyn. "Did you label them all yourself?" Evelyn's face contorted. For a moment, I saw past the monster to the broken woman beneath. The grieving mother who'd chosen to perpetuate her pain rather than heal from it. "I can help you," she pleaded, reaching for my belly one last time. "I know how to keep her safe. By teaching her fear," I caught her wrist, "by making her doubt every meal, every relationship, every moment of joy." The baby kicked again, and something shifted in Evelyn's eyes. Recognition, maybe, or remembrance. "I never meant," she started, but the words dissolved into sobs. Ryan moved forward, not to comfort but to contain. As he guided his mother to a chair, the sound of sirens grew closer. "I did it for you," she whispered to him, "all of it, for the family." "No, Mom." Ryan's voice was gentle but firm. "You did it to the family, and now it's over." As the police entered, I felt the weight of the hidden camera lift from my neck. Claire pressed an untainted glass of water into my hands. Martin stood guard by the drawer of horrors. Sarah watched her former mother-in-law led away, tears streaming down her face. Not for Evelyn, but for the baby she'd lost to this crusade. The revenge I'd planned had transformed into something else. A rescue mission, not just for myself and my daughter, but for every victim of Evelyn's twisted love, including, perhaps, Evelyn herself. "Victoria," Ryan reached for my hand, "let's go home." Home, where we'd build something new from these ashes, something based on trust instead of tests, love instead of fear. The baby kicked once more, as if in agreement. The nursery walls glowed soft yellow in the morning light as I rocked our daughter, breathing in her newborn scent. Ryan's architectural plan still hung by the door, but now they shared space with photos. Claire cutting the hospital bracelet, Martin holding his granddaughter for the first time, Sarah's tearful smile as she touched the baby's hand. The trial documents sat unopened on the changing table. Nathan had dropped them off yesterday, his usual indifference cracked by something darker. "Mum's asking to see the baby," he'd said, not quite meeting my eyes. "She's completed the court-mandated therapy, and with good behavior." I'd closed the door before he finished. Now, watching my daughter's peaceful face, I understood something about cycles, how they don't break cleanly, but spiral outward like ripples in water. The investigation had uncovered 3 decades of Evelyn's victims. Some had come forward for the trial. Others remained silent, their scars too deep for public display. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. Ryan entered, carrying 2 cups of tea. A simple act that had taken months to feel safe again. "Claire called," he said, setting my cup down. "Sarah's starting a support group. For the others." I nodded, remembering the quiet strength in Sarah's voice when she'd testified, how she'd looked directly at Evelyn and said, "I forgive you, but I'll never forget." "Nathan thinks we're being too harsh," Ryan continued, his fingers brushing our daughter's cheek. "That everyone deserves a second chance. This was her second chance," I said quietly, "and her third and fourth. Every victim was another chance to choose differently." The baby stirred, her tiny hand wrapping around my finger. We'd named her Hope, not for what we'd lost, but for what we'd found in the ashes of Evelyn's destruction. A new kind of family, built on truth instead of tests. Martin visited weekly, bringing his engineer's precision to grandfather duties. He'd installed security cameras, tested every surface for allergens, created spreadsheets of safety protocols. But unlike Evelyn's obsessive control, his care came wrapped in love, not fear. "The prosecutor called," Ryan said after a moment. "Mum's written another letter." I looked at the stack of unopened envelopes on my desk. Each one addressed to Hope, each one returned unopened. Evelyn's new method of control, trying to write herself into our daughter's story before it began. "She says she's changed," Ryan added, but his tone held no conviction. "Maybe she has." I shifted Hope to my shoulder, breathing in her baby powder scent. But that's her journey now, not ours. Through the window, I could see Claire arriving for her daily visit, carrying grocery bags. She'd appointed herself our food tester, our safety net, our bridge back to trust. In her wake came Sarah, then Martin, our chosen family gathering for Sunday breakfast. Sometimes I wonder, Ryan said, watching them approach, if revenge and healing look the same in the end. Mum's alone now, facing her demons. Isn't that what you wanted? No. I stood, cradling Hope close. I wanted justice. The loneliness. That's just the natural consequence of her choices. Hope made a small sound, drawing everyone's attention as they entered. Sarah's eyes brightened, though I caught the familiar shadow of grief beneath her smile. Martin moved to the window, checking the locks with practiced ease. Claire unpacked groceries, each item carefully labelled and verified. We carried scars, all of us, but we'd learned to wear them differently than Evelyn had. Instead of using them as weapons, we'd turn them into shields, protecting the next generation from the poison of the past. Ready for breakfast? Claire called from the kitchen. Almost, I answered, settling Hope into Ryan's arms. As I watched them together, I thought about cycles again. About how breaking them doesn't mean forgetting, but choosing differently. Every meal shared without fear, every touch given in love, every truth spoken openly, these were our victories now. The morning light caught Hope's face, making her look luminous. In that moment, I saw not just my daughter, but a promise. That some chains are meant to be broken. That some victories come not from revenge, but from refusing to continue the dance. I touched the last unopened letter from Evelyn, then turned away. Some stories needed to end for others to begin. Coming, I called to Claire, leaving the past behind, stepping into the light of our hard-won peace.
The gallery's pristine walls mocked me with their perfection, each carefully hung piece of my siblings' artwork, a reminder of everything I hadn't achieved. I stood in the corner, clutching my wine glass like a shield, watching my mother fawn over Skylar's latest masterpiece. I'm Marley, and tonight was supposed to be my breakthrough moment. Instead, I was relegated to spectator at my siblings' third solo exhibition this year. The depth of emotion in this piece is extraordinary, my mother gushed to a cluster of art critics. Skylar has always had such natural talent. The wine turned bitter in my mouth. Natural talent. As if the last 15 years of my dedication to art meant nothing. My daughter Riley tugged at my sleeve, her 7-year-old face scrunched in confusion. Mama, why does Grandma never talk about your paintings like that? Before I could answer, my partner Chloe appeared, wrapping an arm around Riley's shoulders. Hey, sweetie, I think I saw some fancy cookies by the entrance. Want to check them out? I shot Chloe a grateful look as she led our daughter away. The crowd shifted, creating a pocket of space near one of Skylar's larger pieces, an abstract explosion of reds and golds that probably had some profound meaning I was supposed to understand. Its derivative, a familiar voice muttered beside me. My friend Everly materialized, wearing a black dress that screamed rebellion against the gallery's understated dress code. Seriously, I've seen better composition in a kindergarten finger painting class. Keep your voice down, I whispered, though her words soothed my bruised ego. The last thing I need is, did you see the write-up in Art Weekly? My brother-in-law Jason's voice carried from behind a nearby sculpture. I froze, recognizing my mother's responding murmur. Yes, they're calling Skylar the voice of our generation, my mother said. Such a relief after. Well, you know how worried we were when both our children wanted to pursue art. Thank goodness one of them had the talent to succeed. The wine glass trembled in my hand. Everly grabbed my arm, but I shook her off, moving closer to hear more. Marley's still doing those little cafe shows, right? Jason asked. At least she has Chloe to support her. Not everyone's cut out for real success in this world. Something hot and ugly unfurled in my chest. I stepped around the sculpture, ready to confront them, when my heel caught on something. A cream-colored envelope lay half hidden under the installation's base. I snatched it up, my name written across the front in familiar handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of paper, an email printout dated 3 years ago, when I'd been shortlisted for the Carlton Prize. Regarding your inquiry about Marley's submission, the email read, "You're right, her technical skills are questionable. Thank you for bringing these concerns to our attention. We'll be removing her from consideration." The signature belonged to the prize committee chair, but the email was addressed to my sibling. My hand shook as I read it again. 3 years ago, that prize could have launched my career. Instead, I'd received a form rejection letter, leading to months of self-doubt that nearly made me quit painting altogether. "Marley," Skylar's voice cut through my thoughts. My sibling stood before me, champagne glass raised in false celebration. "You look pale. Not feeling well?" I met Skylar's eyes, seeing for the first time the calculation behind the concern. How many other opportunities had been quietly sabotaged? How many doors closed before I could even reach them? "I'm fine," I said, folding the paper carefully and slipping it into my pocket. "Just admiring your work. It must be nice, having everything come so naturally." Skylar's smile flickered for just a moment, enough to confirm what I now knew. This wasn't just about talent or success. This was about systematic destruction, wrapped in family loyalty and tied with ribbons of concern. Well, two could play at that game, and I had nothing left to lose. The email burned in my pocket throughout the mandatory family dinner the following evening. My mother had insisted we all gather to celebrate Skylar's success, as if the gallery opening hadn't been enough. I pushed my food around the plate while my mother detailed every compliment the critics had given my siblings' work. Chloe's empty chair beside me felt like an accusation. Another late night at the office with Jeremiah. "And the way you captured the interplay of light and shadow," my mother continued. "It reminds me of that phase Marley went through in college. Remember those dark, moody pieces?" "They weren't a phase," I said, gripping my fork tighter. "That's still my style." "Oh," my mother's dismissal came wrapped in a delicate sip of wine. "I thought you'd moved past that." Riley, coloring beside me at the table, looked up from her drawing. "I like Mama's dark pictures. They make me feel things." "That's sweet, dear," my mother said. "But you should see what your Aunt Skylar painted at your age. Pure talent, even then." My father cleared his throat. "The pot roast is excellent, Olivia." "Speaking of talent," Jason cut in, "Skylar, tell them about the commission you just landed, the one for the new medical center." The fork bent slightly in my hand. "That commission was supposed to be confidential. I'd applied for it last month." "Oh, it's nothing special," my sibling said with practiced modesty. "Just a series of pieces for their pediatric wing." "Nothing special," my mother beamed. "It's the largest commission in the city this year." I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. "Riley, time to pack up your crayons." "But Mama, I want to show everyone my drawing of Aunt Skylar's painting." "Show them, sweetheart," Skylar encouraged. "I'd love to see your interpretation." Riley held up her paper proudly. "See? It's the big red one from the gallery. And look what I found hidden in it." My breath caught as Riley pointed to a series of marks in her drawing. Similar marks I'd seen in Skylar's actual painting, but hadn't paid attention to before. "What do you mean, hidden?" I asked carefully. "The little numbers. They're tucked into all the swirly parts, like a secret code." I counted 7 of them. Skylar's champagne glass clattered against the table. "Such an active imagination," my sibling said quickly. "Kids see patterns everywhere." But I'd seen the flash of panic in Skylar's eyes. Those numbers meant something. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe. "Sorry, Jeremiah needs me to stay late again. Don't wait up." "Everything okay?" my father asked. Noticing my expression. "Perfect," I lied, helping Riley gather her art supplies. "We need to get home. School night." "But you've barely touched your food," my mother protested. And Skylar was going to share some exciting news about. I'm sure I'll hear all about Skylar's latest triumph eventually. The bitterness slipped out before I could stop it. It's not like anyone in this family talks about anything else. Silence fell over the table. My father studied his plate while Jason wrapped a protective arm around Skylar's shoulders. Marley. My mother's voice carried that familiar note of disappointment. There's no need for jealousy. Everyone finds their level eventually. Right. I grabbed my coat, helping Riley into hers. And I suppose Skylar found theirs by sabotaging everyone else's chances. What are you implying? Skylar stood, facade cracking slightly. Nothing. Yet. I met my sibling's gaze. But maybe we should talk about the Carlton Prize sometime. Or those mysterious numbers Riley noticed in your painting. Mama. Riley tugged at my sleeve. Why is everyone mad? We're not mad, sweetie, Skylar said, voice honey sweet. Your mother's just tired. Making art can be so draining when it doesn't come naturally. I guided Riley toward the door, pausing only to say, you know what else is draining? Maintaining lies. But don't worry, sibling dear. I'm about to make things much easier for you. As we left, I heard my mother asking Skylar what I'd meant about the Carlton Prize, but I was already plotting my next move. Those numbers in the painting weren't random. They were dates, and I had a feeling they'd lead me to every opportunity Skylar had stolen from me. 7 dates, Everly said, spreading printouts across my studio floor. 7 rejections. 7 opportunities that went to Skylar instead of you. The morning light caught dust motes dancing around my easel, where a half-finished canvas waited. I hadn't touched it since discovering the email. Look at this one. Everly pointed to a grant rejection from last spring. The timing matches the 3rd number Riley found in the painting. And guess who was on the selection committee? Let me guess. Someone Skylar knows. Better, someone our mother knows. Everly's dark eyes flashed. The committee chair plays tennis with her every Sunday. I pressed my palms against my temples. That doesn't prove anything. No? Then explain this. She held up her phone, showing a social media post from 2 years ago. My mother, the committee chair, and Skylar at some charity event. The date matched another rejection letter. My phone buzzed. Chloe. Working late again. Jeremiah needs the quarterly reports tonight. Still no Chloe? Everly asked, noting my expression. She's barely been home this week. I tossed the phone aside. Jeremiah's got her working impossible hours. Convenient timing, don't you think? Right when you're closest to exposing. A knock at the studio door cut her off. My childhood friend Marcus stood there looking uncomfortable. Sorry to interrupt, he said. Door was opened downstairs. Marcus. I hadn't seen him in months. What are you doing here? He shifted, not quite meeting my eyes. Heard about the gallery opening and the dinner after. Thought you might need a friend. How did you hear about the dinner? Everly asked sharply. I ran into Skylar yesterday. The air seemed to thicken. You saw my sibling? At the art supplies store. Marcus stepped inside, closing the door. Look, they're worried about you, Marley. Said you've been making accusations. They sent you to spy on me. Bapaying. The betrayal tasted metallic. No, I mean, they mentioned you seemed unstable lately. Unstable. I grabbed one of the rejection letters. Is that what they call discovering years of sabotage? They said you might say something like that. Marcus glanced at the papers scattered across the floor. Come on, Marley. You really think Skylar orchestrated some grand conspiracy? Maybe you're just... If you say jealous, I swear I'll throw you out myself, Everly interrupted. I was going to say struggling. Marcus held up his hands. It's okay to admit when you need help. Skylar mentioned they know a great therapist. Get out. My voice shook. And tell my sibling that if they want to check on me, they can do it themselves instead of sending flying monkeys. After Marcus left, Everly helped me gather the evidence we'd collected. You realize what this means, right? Skylar's scared. They're trying to discredit you before you can expose them. By making me look paranoid. I stared at the numbers Riley had copied from the painting. But they made a mistake hiding these dates in their work. Pride or something else. Speaking of pride, Everly pulled up another social media post. Look who just announced their upcoming solo show at the Hamilton Gallery. My stomach dropped. The Hamilton Gallery had been my dream venue since art school. I'd submitted portfolios every year for a decade. 3 weeks from now, I read aloud. With special guest speaker, Jeremiah Walsh, Chloe's boss, Everly frowned. That can't be coincidence. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Your sibling isn't who you think they are. Meet me at Andrew's studio tomorrow morning if you want proof. Marcus? Everly asked, reading over my shoulder. No, I said slowly. I think it's from my old mentor, but why now? Could be a trap. Or it could be the evidence we need. I looked at my half-finished canvas, then at the dates that marked each stolen opportunity. Either way, I'm done letting Skylar write my story. What are you going to do? I picked up a brush, finally ready to paint again. I'm going to turn their own technique against them. If Skylar can hide messages in their art, so can I. And my exhibition is going to tell the truth about every single one of those 7 dates. Marley? Everly's voice held a warning. Be careful, you're playing with fire. Good, I said, making the first bold stroke across the canvas. It's about time someone got burned. Andrew's studio smelled of turpentine and stale coffee, just as it had during my student days. My old mentor hunched over his workbench, looking smaller than I remembered. I wondered when you'd finally figure it out, he said without turning around. Took you long enough. You knew? The betrayal felt like acid in my throat. All this time you knew what Skylar was doing? Knew? He laughed, a hollow sound. Kid, I was part of it. He pushed a folder across the workbench. Inside were emails, dozens of them, spanning years. My hands shook as I read exchanges between Andrew, Skylar, and various gallery owners, competition judges, grant committees. Why? I managed to ask. Your sibling made me an offer, said they'd fund my retirement, get my work into major collections. He finally turned to face me. I was tired of being the forgotten genius, watching younger artists pass me by. So you helped destroy my career instead. I wrote the recommendations they needed, made the right calls. It wasn't personal. Wasn't personal? I slammed the folder down. You were like a father to me. And look how well that turned out for your real father. Andrew's words hit like a slap. Francis always favored you, didn't he? Maybe Skylar deserved their turn. And my phone buzzed. Chloe again. I ignored it. There's more, Andrew said. About your partner's boss, Jeremiah. He's not just keeping Chloe busy with work. What do you mean? They're planning something. The Hamilton Gallery show isn't just about Skylar's art. He pulled out another document. Look at the investor list. Jeremiah's name was there, along with several shell companies I didn't recognize. But one name made my blood freeze. Chloe's. She's been investing in Skylar's work for months, Andrew said, through Jeremiah's art investment firm. The studio door creaked. I spun around to find Chloe standing there, her face pale. I can explain, she said. How long? My voice sounded distant, even to myself. How long have you been working with them? It's not what you think. Chloe stepped closer. Jeremiah showed me the numbers. Skylar's work is appreciating faster than any other artist in the region. I was trying to secure our future, build something for Riley. By backing the person who's been systematically destroying my career? I didn't know about that part, not until recently. She reached for me, but I stepped back. When I found out, I started gathering evidence. That's why I've been working late. I was trying to protect you. Protect me? I gestured at Andrew's folder. By secretly investing in my siblings' success while I struggled. By watching me doubt myself year after year. There's still time to fix this, Andrew interrupted. The Hamilton show. If certain things came to light, if the right people started asking questions, you want to help now? I laughed bitterly. After years of sabotage, I want to make things right. He pulled out a USB drive. Everything's here, the emails, the doctored recommendations, the financial records, including Jeremiah's less-than-legal art investment schemes. My phone buzzed again. A text from Everly. Where are you? Skylar's here at your studio with your mother. They're going through your new work. I have to go. I grabbed the USB drive and folder. My siblings about to get a preview of their own exposure. Marley, wait, Chloe called after me. You don't understand what they're capable of. No, I turned back one last time. You don't understand what I'm capable of. And neither does Skylar. I left them both there, my mentor and my partner. 2 more betrayals to add to the growing list. But their duplicity had given me something valuable. Proof. Now I just had to reach my studio before Skylar destroyed the paintings that would reveal everything. As I drove, my phone kept buzzing. Messages from my mother, from Skylar, from Chloe. I ignored them all. Let them worry. Let them wonder what I would do next. They'd all underestimated me for years. Time to show them exactly what that mistake would cost them. I burst into my studio to find Skylar holding one of my new canvases, the one with the hidden dates woven into abstract shadows. My mother stood nearby, frowning at the dark imagery. "These are different," my mother said, more angry than usual. "Put it down." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "I'm trying to understand," Skylar said, not releasing the canvas. "What exactly are you hoping to accomplish with these?" Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing about sabotaging my career. I pulled out Andrew's folder. "Want to explain these emails? Or should we start with Jeremiah's investment scheme?" My mother stepped forward. "What are you talking about?" "Show her," Everly said from the doorway. "Show them both." I spread the documents across my workbench. Emails, recommendations, financial records, a paper trail of betrayal. My mother's face paled as she read. "This can't be right," she whispered. "Can't it?" I pointed to specific dates. Every rejection, every missed opportunity, all orchestrated by your perfect child. "You're misinterpreting things," Skylar said, but their hands trembled slightly. "These were business decisions, nothing more." "Business?" I laughed. "Like having Andrew tank my recommendations, like having Chloe invest in your work behind my back." My mother's head snapped up. "Chloe's involved?" "Everyone's involved, Mother. Everyone except you and Dad, though I'm sure you'll find a way to justify it all." "That's enough." Skylar set down the canvas. "You're spinning conspiracy theories because you can't accept that I'm not as talented as you." I grabbed my phone, pulling up photos of Skylar's painting. "Explain the numbers then. The dates hidden in your masterpiece. Quite a coincidence they match every major setback in my career." Silence fell. My mother looked between us, her carefully maintained worldview cracking. "I did what I had to do," Skylar finally said. "You were always Dad's favorite, always the special one. Even when you failed, he believed in you more than me. So you destroyed my career to punish Dad." "I earned my success." Skylar's composure shattered. "Every sabotaged application, every manipulated judgment, it proved I could beat you on any playing field. Even with your raw talent, I won." My mother sank into a chair. "How could you?" "How could I?" Skylar whirled on her. "You taught me. Always pushing, always comparing. Why can't you paint like your sibling? Why aren't you as creative?" Until I found a way to win your approval instead. "By cheating," I said quietly. "By stealing opportunities from others. How many artists did you destroy besides me?" A new voice answered from the door. "Too many." My father stood there holding a manila envelope. "I've suspected for years but couldn't prove it. Until now, then." "Dad?" Skylar's voice wavered. "What do you mean?" "I've been gathering evidence," he said. Working with gallery owners, other artists, building a case." He handed me the envelope. "I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, Marley. I wanted proof first." Inside were more documents, a pattern of manipulation stretching beyond just my career. Dozens of artists, countless competitions, all corrupted by Skylar's schemes. "The Hamilton Gallery show," my father continued. "It's built on fraud, and now we can prove it." "You can't do this," Skylar whispered. "My reputation. Your reputation." My mother stood. "You destroyed lives, used our connections, our trust." "I did it for you," Skylar shouted. "Everything I did was to be worthy of what?" I asked. "Their love, their pride. Look what it cost you. Look what it cost everyone." My phone buzzed. Chloe again. But another message caught my eye. An email from Howard. The gallery owner I'd always seen as a rival. Subject line: let's talk about your siblings' show. I looked at my family, my shattered mother, my quietly determined father, my desperate sibling, and made a decision. The Hamilton show opens in 2 weeks, I said. Just enough time to prepare my own exhibition, one that tells the real story. Marley, my father warned, be careful, revenge can. This isn't about revenge anymore. I picked up my paint-stained brush. It's about justice. For everyone they've hurt. I met Skylar's eyes. You taught me how to hide messages in art. Time to show you what else I've learned. Howard's gallery felt different at night, the empty halls amplifying every footstep. He studied my proposal under the harsh track lighting, his expression unreadable. A counter-exhibition, he said finally, opening the same night as your siblings' show. With proof of every manipulation, every stolen opportunity. I spread the evidence across his desk. Not just mine, everyone's. Bold move. He tapped the documents. Also, career suicide if you're wrong. I'm not wrong. No, he agreed. You're not, but there's something you don't know. My phone buzzed. Marcus again. I'd been ignoring his calls since our confrontation at Andrew's studio. Jeremiah isn't just Chloe's boss, Howard continued. He's been buying up smaller galleries. Bob's bought galleries, including mine. By next way, he'll own controlling interest in half the exhibition spaces in the city. The implications hit hard. He's working with Skylar. Smart girl. Why do you think your siblings' show is happening here? My carefully constructed plan crumbled. Without a venue, without a platform. There's more, Howard said. Check your email. A message from the Art Board's Ethics Committee appeared on my phone. My hands shook as I read, investigation into allegations of plagiarism and fraud against me. Skylar filed the complaint this morning with evidence. What evidence? They're using your own technique against you. Those hidden messages in your recent work, they're claiming you stole the idea from them, and they have backdated proof. A knock interrupted us. Marcus stood in the doorway, looking grim. You should have answered my calls, he said. Chloe's gone. What do you mean gone? She took Riley to your mother's, said something about protecting her from what's coming. The room tilted slightly. My daughter is safe, Marcus said, but Chloe's working with Jeremiah now, officially. Howard pushed a document across his desk. The Hamilton show isn't just an exhibition. It's the launch of a new art investment fund. Your partner is listed as managing director. They're not just trying to stop you, Marcus added. They're trying to erase you. My phone buzzed again. Everly this time. 911. Someone broke into your studio. All your new work. Marley, it's gone. The floors seemed to drop away. Months of work. All my evidence woven into paintings. There's still a way, Marcus said quietly. Remember what we discussed about making sure Skylar never recovers? What's he talking about? Howard asked. He has proof of tax fraud, I said. Enough to send Skylar to prison. Along with Jeremiah and half the art scene, Marcus added. One anonymous tip. Howard studied me. That would destroy more than careers, families, lives, including your daughter's family name. But Skylar would finally pay, Marcus pressed. Isn't that what you wanted? I thought of Riley, of Chloe, of my mother's broken expression when she learned the truth, of my father's quiet gathering of evidence, choosing justice over vengeance. No, I said, not like this. Then what's your play? Howard asked. They have everything. The venues, the narrative, your partner, your work. Not everything. I pulled out my phone, dialing a number I'd memorized years ago. They don't have the truth. Who are you calling? The one person who can still reach Skylar. The one person who started all this with their constant comparisons and pressure. My mother answered on the first ring. Marley, Riley's asking for you. Mom, I cut her off. I need your help. And this time you have to choose a side. Silence stretched between us. Then, what do you need? Your confession. About how your favoritism drove Skylar to this. About everything you saw but ignored. Will you do it? Another pause. Yes, she said finally. It's time. I looked at Howard. Still have that contact at the Arts Journal? He nodded slowly, understanding dawning. A mother's confession would be compelling. More than compelling, Marcus said. It would be devastating. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Skylar. Last chance to back down. Don't make me destroy everything you have left. I typed back 3 words. Too late, sibling. The game wasn't over. It was just changing rules. The Hamilton Gallery hummed with opening night energy. Skylar's exhibition foiled the main space, while my hastily arranged response show occupied the smaller side gallery, a compromise Howard had negotiated at the last minute. I stood before my centerpiece, a triptych of dark canvases, each hiding dates and documents beneath layers of paint that would become visible under the right light. "They're here," Everly whispered, appearing at my side, all of them. Through the gathering crowd I spotted them. Jeremiah leading a group of investors, Chloe at his side looking uncomfortable, my mother near the entrance, clutching her prepared statement, Andrew hovering uncertainly between the 2 galleries, and finally, Skylar, moving through their admirers with practiced grace. "Ready?" Howard asked, finger hovering over the lighting controls. I nodded, and the gallery lights dimmed. UV lights activated, revealing the hidden elements in my paintings. Every piece of evidence, every manipulated competition, every stolen opportunity glowing in phosphorescent paint. Gasps rippled through the crowd as they realized what they were seeing. Skylar froze mid-conversation, face draining of color. "Ladies and gentlemen," Howard announced, "welcome to Truth in Shadow, a special exhibition about artistic integrity." My mother stepped forward, hands shaking as she unfolded her statement. But before she could speak, Jeremiah cut through the crowd. "This is a publicity stunt," he announced. "Ms. Marley here is under investigation for plagiarism." "Actually," my father's voice rang out as he emerged from the crowd, "the investigation has been dropped. The ethics committee received some very interesting evidence this morning." Chloe broke away from Jeremiah's side, moving toward me. "Marley, I can explain." "Not now," I said quietly. "Watch." The central canvas began to shift under the UV light, revealing a hidden image, Skylar's signature technique, dated years before they claimed to have invented it. Proof they had stolen it from one of the artists they'd destroyed. "That's impossible," Skylar breathed. "Is it?" I turned to face my sibling, like it was impossible for you to manipulate Andrew, to use Jeremiah's money to buy control of galleries, to convince Chloe that betraying me was for our daughter's good. "I did what I had to do," Skylar snapped. "You have no idea what it's like living in your shadow." "My shadow?" I laughed. "While you were stealing opportunities, buying success, I was fighting for every scrap of recognition. The shadow was yours, built on lies and manipulation." "Enough." Jeremiah moved to intervene, but Howard stepped forward. "I wouldn't," he said. "The Arts Journal livestream has been running since the doors opened. Everything's being broadcast." The crowd parted as my mother approached Skylar. "I did this," she said, voice breaking. "My favoritism, my pressure. I turned you into this." "Mother, don't." "The truth, Skylar. For once." Something cracked in my siblings' carefully maintained facade. "I just wanted to make you proud," they whispered. "By destroying others?" My father joined us. "By hurting your own family?" "Family?" Skylar gestured at the revealing paintings. "Look what Marley's doing right now." "I'm showing the truth," I said. "Something you taught me, remember? Hidden messages in art?" A small voice cut through the tension. "Mama?" Riley stood in the gallery entrance, having slipped away from our neighbor, Amy's supervision. She looked at the glowing paintings, then at her other mother. "Chloe," I said softly, "take her home." "No," Skylar interrupted. "Let her stay. Let her see what her mother's revenge looks like." "This isn't revenge," I said, meeting my siblings' eyes. "It's justice. For every artist you destroyed, every dream you stole, the truth doesn't destroy people, Skylar. Lies do." The gallery erupted in camera flashes as reporters pushed forward, questions overlapping. But above the chaos, I heard Howard's quiet words. "Check your phone." A message waited from an unknown number. Your work speaks truth to power. When you're ready to show it properly, the Venice Biennale has an opening. H. I looked up to find Skylar staring at me, their carefully constructed world crumbling around them. But in their eyes, beneath the anger and fear, I saw something else. Relief. The truth, finally exposed, had set us both free. The Venice sun painted my new studio in shades of gold as I added the final touches to my latest piece. A knock at the door made me pause, brush hovering over canvas. "Still hiding in here?" Everly asked, stepping inside. "The water taxi's waiting." Riley's already bouncing with excitement about the opening. I studied my work. No hidden messages this time, just raw truth on canvas. "Is everyone here?" "Your parents arrived this morning." Andrew's been pacing the gallery since dawn. "Even Howard flew in from New York." She hesitated. "And Skylar sent something." My hand tightened on the brush. "What?" "A letter, and one of their early pieces. From before, everything." The painting sat wrapped in brown paper, propped against the wall. Beneath it lay a sealed envelope. "Have you heard from Chloe?" I asked, cleaning my brush. "She's doing well in her new gallery. Riley loves visiting her there on weekends." Everly touched my shoulder. "You made the right choice, letting her go." "I know, and I did. Some betrayals couldn't be undone, but they could be forgiven. For Riley's sake, if nothing else." The letter felt heavy in my hands as I opened it. "Dear Marley, I spent years trying to escape your shadow, only to cast a darker one. The truth you exposed didn't destroy me. It freed me. I'm starting over, teaching art to children. They see beauty without competition, creation without corruption. Maybe that's something I needed to learn. Skylar." I unwrapped the painting, a small piece from our college days, before ambition and jealousy poisoned everything. Two figures, faces turned toward a bright horizon. "We should go," Everly said softly. "They're waiting." The gallery buzzed with anticipation. My mother stood with my father near the entrance, her therapy-strengthened smile genuine as she hugged me. Andrew hovered nearby, his redemption found in mentoring young artists, warning them about the industry's darker sides. "Ready?" Howard asked, appearing at my elbow. I nodded, and he signaled the staff. The lights dimmed, but this time there were no hidden revelations, no accusations glowing in the dark. Instead, each canvas told a story of recovery, of truth's aftermath, of shadows transformed into light. "Mama, look!" Riley tugged my hand, pointing to a small painting near the end. "Is that me?" The piece showed a child's hands holding broken pieces of a mirror, each shard reflecting something different: family, art, truth, forgiveness. I'd painted it the day Chloe and I signed our divorce papers. "You inspired it," I told her. "You showed me how to see clearly." Speaking of seeing clearly, my father approached, holding another envelope. "This came for you." And inside was a single sheet of paper, a list of names, and contact information. Artists Skylar had sabotaged over the years. Each one now offered a chance at redemption through Howard's new foundation. "Your sibling provided the list," my father said. "And the funding." "And Jeremiah, facing charges for investment fraud. Turns out your exposure inspired quite a few whistleblowers." The gallery filled with critics, collectors, and artists. Some familiar, some new. No hidden agendas, no secret competitions, just art, honest and raw. My mother touched my arm. "I've been thinking about shadows lately," she said. "How we cast them without realizing, how they distort everything they touch. I'm sorry I couldn't see clearly before." "We all cast shadows," I replied. "The trick is learning to paint with them." Later, as the evening wound down, I found Skylar's painting again. Those two figures, facing the horizon, not running from shadows, but walking toward light. A new message appeared on my phone. "Some truths take time to understand. Thank you for showing me mine. S." I looked around the gallery, at my daughter sketching in a corner, my parents talking with Howard, Everly arranging my next showing. The shadows were still there, but they didn't dominate anymore. They were just another color on the palette. Another layer of depth in the greater picture. I picked up my brush again. There were more stories to tell, more truths to paint, but this time I'd create them in full light, letting the shadows fall where they may.
Just sign here, Betty. It's what's best for everyone. My mother's words still echo in my head 15 years later, the memory as sharp as the pen she thrust into my trembling hands that day. I was 23, naive and desperate to prove my love for my family, especially my sister Rose. My name is Betty, and this is the story of how I became both a surrogate and a mother, though not in the way anyone had planned. Think about Rose's career, my mother pressed, pacing our family's sunlit kitchen. She can't risk losing her modeling contracts. You're the only one who can help. She slid the surrogacy agreement across our marble countertop, her manicured nail tapping impatiently against the signature line. Rose sat beside me, her perfect features arranged in a practiced pout. Please, Betty, you know I've always wanted to be a mother, but the timing isn't right with my career taking off. Just carry the babies for me. That's all I'm asking. I stared at the contract, my stomach churning. But why twins? The fertility specialist recommended single embryo transfer. 2 for 1, Rose chirped, as if ordering coffee. More efficient this way. Besides, I've always wanted twins. My father cleared his throat from his position by the window. Betty, your sister has given you everything. Remember who paid for your medical school? Who supported you through every step? It's time to return the favor. The guilt was suffocating. They were right. Rose had helped fund my education when our parents couldn't afford it. I owed her. With shaking fingers, I signed the papers. The pregnancy was surprisingly easy, but something unexpected happened. With each kick, each heartbeat on the monitor, each ultrasound showing 2 perfect little girls, I felt a connection growing stronger than anything I'd ever known. At 7 months, I sat in my small apartment, hands cradling my swollen belly, when Rose visited with a camera crew. "What's this?" I asked, watching strangers set up lighting equipment in my living room. "Just a small documentary piece," Rose waved dismissively, "about surrogacy and my journey to motherhood. The agency thinks it'll be great publicity." My stomach clenched, and not from the baby's movement. "You didn't ask me about this." "Oh, don't be difficult," Rose snapped. "Just sit there and look happy. Talk about how blessed you feel to help your sister." That's when it hit me. The years of manipulation, the constant guilt-tripping, the way Rose had held her financial support over my head. These babies, growing inside me, deserved better than to be props in their aunt's publicity stunt. "No," I said quietly. "What?" I said no. I stood up, one hand protectively over my belly. "Get out. All of you." Rose's perfectly plucked eyebrows drew together. "Don't be ridiculous. You signed a contract. A contract I'm willing to fight in court." My voice grew stronger with each word. "These are my babies too. Biologically, legally, I have rights." The aftermath was nuclear. My parents called me selfish, ungrateful, a traitor to the family. Rose threatened lawsuits, though her lawyers later advised against it, something about the contract's validity being questionable. "You'll regret this," my mother hissed during our last conversation. "You're dead to us, Betty. Dead." I gave birth alone, save for the kind hospital staff. 2 perfect little girls, Ariana and Mary. When I held them for the first time, I knew I'd made the right choice. Their tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and in that moment, I silently promised them something. They would never know manipulation disguised as love. They would never be anyone's props or pawns. My family kept their word. They vanished from my life completely. No cards, no calls, no acknowledgement of the twins' existence. I threw myself into my residency, working double shifts while juggling single motherhood. It was hard, harder than anything I'd ever done. But watching my daughters grow into kind, confident little girls made every sacrifice worth it. I thought I'd closed that chapter of my life forever. I was wrong. 15 years later, fate would prove that some stories refuse to end, and karma has a way of demanding its due. But that day in the hospital, cradling my newborn daughters, I didn't know what was coming. I just knew I was finally free, and that was enough. "Mom, you're doing it again," Ariana said, not looking up from her calculus homework. "That thing where you stare at your phone instead of eating." I blinked, realizing my breakfast had gone cold. The email from the hospital board was still open on my screen, announcing my promotion to Chief of Pediatric Surgery. After 15 years of grinding, I'd finally reached the summit. Sorry, sweetie. Big news at work. I set my phone down, taking in my kitchen and the two teenagers who filled it with life. Mary was perched on the counter, despite my constant reminders not to, while Ariana sat at the table, surrounded by textbooks. Did you finally get that promotion? Mary's eyes lit up. Though identical twins, she and Ariana couldn't be more different. Mary was all spontaneity and creative chaos, while Ariana approached life with methodical precision. Actually, yes, starting next month. Called it, Mary pumped her fist. This calls for celebration. Can we order pizza tonight? On a school night? I raised an eyebrow, but couldn't help smiling. We'll see. Now get off that counter before... My phone buzzed. A text from Evan, my colleague and closest friend at the hospital. Need to talk. ASAP. Your office. Everything okay? Ariana asked, noticing my expression change. Just work stuff. I should head in early. I grabbed my coat, kissing each of them on the head. Remember, Aunt Sarah is picking you up for soccer practice. We're 15, Mom. Mary rolled her eyes. We can take the bus. Humor your overprotective mother, okay? The hospital was already buzzing when I arrived. I spotted Evan pacing outside my office, his usually calm demeanor noticeably rattled. What's wrong? I asked, unlocking the door. He followed me inside, closing the door firmly. You need to sit down for this. Evan, you're scaring me. Your parents are here, in the hospital. They're looking for you. The world tilted sideways. I gripped the edge of my desk, grateful I was already sitting. What? They showed up in administration this morning, asking about you. I overheard because I was dropping off some paperwork. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Betty, there's more. Your sister is with them. Rose? The name felt foreign on my tongue. Why now, after 15 years? They're saying she's sick. Leukemia. Evan's voice softened. From what I gathered, they're looking for a bone marrow donor. A harsh laugh escaped me. Of course. They're not here to reconcile. They need something. You don't have to see them, Evan said firmly. I can have security. Dr. Matthews? My assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. There's a couple here insisting they're your parents. They're quite persistent. I met Evan's concerned gaze. Tell them I'm in surgery. Already did. They said they'll wait. My hands trembled as I reached for my coffee cup. 15 years of silence, and now this? The girls didn't even know they had an aunt, let alone grandparents who'd abandoned them. Whatever you decide, Evan said quietly. I've got your back. But Betty? He waited until I looked at him. Don't let them manipulate you. Not again. The irony is, I said, staring at my office wall where photos of the girls hung. I just got the chief position. Everything was finally perfect. It still is. You're not that same person they pushed around. He squeezed my shoulder. You're Dr. Betty Matthews, Chief of Pediatric Surgery, and one hell of a mother. Remember that. My phone buzzed again, a text from Mary. Forgot my history project. Can you bring it by school? It's on the kitchen table. Love you. Looking at my daughter's message, something hardened inside me. These people might have given me life, but they'd lost the right to be part of it long ago. Whatever they wanted, I wouldn't let it hurt my girls. Tell them, I said into the intercom. I'll give them 15 minutes, not a second more. Evan nodded approvingly. Want me to stick around? No, but stay close. I managed a weak smile, just in case I need backup. As I waited for my parents to be shown in, I straightened my white coat and touched the photo of my girls for luck. Whatever storm was coming, I'd weather it. I had to. I was all my daughters had. And this time, I wasn't some naive 23-year-old they could push around. This time, I was ready. They looked older, of course. My mother's hair had gone completely gray, and my father's shoulders stooped in a way I didn't remember. But the entitled way they swept into my office, as if the last 15 years hadn't happened, was exactly the same. Betty, my mother breathed, moving to hug me. I stepped back. Let's keep this professional. I gestured to the chairs across from my desk. 15 minutes. Is that any way to greet your parents? My father's voice carried that familiar note of disapproval. After everything you did? I cut him off. Yes, actually, it is. Why are you here? They exchanged glances. My mother pulled out her phone, showing me a photo. Rose lay in a hospital bed, her once perfect features gaunt and pale. Your sister needs you. She needs your daughters, my father corrected. Rose has acute myeloid leukemia. She's been through 3 rounds of chemo, but nothing's working. The doctors say her best chance is a bone marrow transplant from a close relative. And you waited until now to reach out? I kept my voice steady. How long has she been sick? 6 months, my mother admitted. We tried everything else first, but 6 months. I let that sink in. So I'm still your last resort. Don't be dramatic, my father snapped. This is your sister's life we're talking about. My sister? I stood up, anger finally breaking through. The same sister who manipulated me into being her surrogate because she didn't want to ruin her modeling career? That sister? That's not fair, my mother protested. Rose was at the peak of her career, and now she's at the bottom of her luck, so you remember I exist? I laughed bitterly. Let me guess, you haven't found any other matches in the donor registry? Their silence was answer enough. The girls, my mother finally said. They're 15 now. We'd like to meet them. Absolutely not. They're Rose's daughters. My father's fist hit my desk. They have a right to know their mother. The words hung in the air like poison. I leaned forward, my voice deadly quiet. I am their mother, the only mother they've ever known or needed, and I have a right to know something too. Was Rose really infertile? They froze. My mother's hand flew to her throat, an old tell I remembered from childhood. I want DNA tests, I continued. Before we discuss anything involving my daughters, I want proof of Rose's biological claim to them. That's ridiculous, my father blustered. The surrogacy agreement, the same agreement your lawyers advised Rose not to enforce? I pulled out a document from my desk drawer. I've kept copies of everything, including the fertility clinic paperwork that seemed oddly vague about certain details. Betty, please, my mother's voice cracked. Rose is dying, and I'm sorry about that, truly, but my daughters aren't bargaining chips. I stood up. If you want to pursue this, we do it my way. Full DNA testing, complete medical history, and legal documentation. Otherwise, there's the door. You've become hard, my father said accusingly. No, I've become strong. There's a difference. I checked my watch. Your 15 minutes are up. My assistant will give you my lawyer's contact information. Any future communication goes through her. They stood slowly, my mother wiping tears I wasn't sure were genuine. At the door, she turned back. Do they know anything about us? They know they're loved. That's all they've ever needed to know. After they left, I sank into my chair, hands shaking. Evan appeared minutes later with coffee. That bad? Worse, I told him everything. Am I wrong to demand the DNA tests? No, he said firmly. You're protecting your kids. But Betty? He hesitated. What if the tests show what you suspect, that Rose was never infertile? I stared at the family photo on my desk. Then 15 years of lies come crashing down, and karma finally comes calling. My phone buzzed, a text from Mary. Thanks for bringing my project. Love you tons. Best mom ever. Looking at those words, I knew I'd walk through fire to protect what I'd built. My daughters deserved the truth, whatever it might be. And if that truth burned down the carefully constructed lies my family had built, well, some things needed to burn. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. It was time to uncover what really happened 15 years ago, no matter the cost. The DNA results arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered to my office in a sealed envelope. I stared at it for an hour before Evan knocked on my door. You haven't opened it yet, have you? He set down 2 cups of coffee and closed the door. I'm afraid, I admitted, pushing the envelope toward him. You do it. He picked it up, carefully breaking the seal. I watched his eyes scan the document, his expression shifting from neutral to shocked. Betty, he looked up. You're the biological mother. Both eggs were yours. The room spun. Even though I'd suspected it, hearing the confirmation knocked the wind out of me. How? They told me they used Rose's eggs. There's more. Evan flipped through the pages. The fertility clinic included their records. The eggs were harvested from you during what they told you was a preparatory procedure. Rose never underwent any fertility treatments there. She lied. My voice sounded distant to my own ears. They all lied. But why? Money, a voice said from the doorway. We both turned to see Sarah, my closest friend and the girl's godmother, standing there. Sorry, I overheard. But think about it. Wasn't Rose's big modeling contract right after? The memories flooded back. Rose's magazine covers, the luxury car, the beach house, all appearing shortly after I'd signed the surrogacy agreement. The pregnancy would have cost her the contract, I whispered, so she used me instead. And your parents helped her do it, Sarah added, her voice hard. Have you told the girls? Not yet. I don't even know how to start that conversation. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. Rose is getting worse. Have you made a decision about the girls? I need to tell them tonight, I said, looking at my friends, before this gets any more complicated. That evening, I gathered Ariana and Mary in our living room. They must have sensed something was wrong because they didn't even argue about putting their phones away. Mom? Ariana's forehead creased with worry. Are you okay? I need to tell you something about your birth. I took a deep breath. You know I was a surrogate, but there's more to the story. I told them everything, about Rose, the manipulation, the contract. When I got to the DNA results, Mary grabbed her sister's hand. So this aunt we've never met? She's not really our mother at all? Mary's voice trembled. You are? Completely? Yes. I watched their faces carefully. I'm sorry I didn't tell you the whole truth before. I thought I was protecting you. From what? Ariana asked quietly. From feeling unwanted. From knowing your aunt and grandparents chose money and career over you. But you didn't, Mary said fiercely. You chose us. Ariana stood up suddenly, pacing the room. They're back, aren't they? That's why you're telling us now. Yes, your Aunt Rose is sick. They want to test you as potential bone marrow donors. No. Ariana's response was immediate. They abandoned us for 15 years. They don't get to use us now. Ari, I said gently, I'm not asking you to decide anything right now. I just needed you to know the truth. I want to meet them, Mary said suddenly. We all turned to look at her. Not to help. I just want to see the people who thought they could throw us away. Mary! Ariana looked shocked. What? Don't you want to look them in the eye? Tell them what they missed? I watched my daughters, Mary's righteous anger, Ariana's protective instincts, and saw myself in both of them. Strong, resilient, unwilling to be manipulated. Whatever you decide, I said carefully, we do it together. No one pressures you. No one makes you feel guilty. Your bodies, your choice. Like it should have been your choice? Ariana asked softly. The question hit me hard. Yes, exactly like that. My phone buzzed again. Evan this time. Your parents are pushing for a meeting with the girls. What do you want me to tell them? Looking at my daughters, I saw the same strength that had helped me defy my family 15 years ago. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. Mom? Mary's voice pulled me back. We're okay. Really. You're our mother, the only one we need or want. Ariana nodded. And whoever these people are, they'll have to go through you to get to us. I pulled them both into a hug, marveling at how karma had given me the greatest gift of all. 2 daughters who were as fierce and protective of me as I was of them. Now it was time to face my family with the truth. All of it. You've got everything? Evan asked, reviewing the documents spread across my office desk. DNA results, original fertility clinic paperwork, Rose's modeling contracts from that year. Plus the emails I saved between Rose and her agent discussing the pregnancy problem. I tapped the final folder. Found those while cleaning out my old laptop last night. She used my email to communicate with them because she was paranoid about leaks to the press. Careless of her, Sarah commented from her perch on my office couch, almost like she never expected you to stand up for yourself. The intercom buzzed. "Dr. Matthews, your family is here. Show them in." I straightened my lab coat. "You two don't have to stay." "Try making us leave," Sarah replied, while Evan just crossed his arms and leaned against the wall. My parents entered first, followed by Rose in a wheelchair. She looked worse than her photo. Skin pale as paper, designer scarf wrapped around her bare head. A pang of sympathy hit me before I remembered why we were here. "Betty," Rose's voice was weak. "Thank you for seeing us." "Sit," I gestured to the chairs. "We need to talk about the DNA results." "We don't need," my father started, but I cut him off. "Actually, we do, because they show something interesting." I opened the folder. "The twins? They're mine. Biologically mine. Both eggs were harvested from me." The color drained from my mother's face. Rose gripped her wheelchair arms. "That's impossible," my father blustered. The clinic kept excellent records." I pulled out more documents, including the consent forms that were forged with my signature. "Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out?" "Betty, please," Rose wheezed. "I'm dying." "Yes, you are, and I'm sorry about that. But it doesn't change what you did." I turned to my parents. "Did you know about the fake infertility?" My mother's silence was damning. "Of course they knew," Sarah spoke up from the couch. "They probably helped plan it. The timing was too perfect with Rose's contract renewal." $3 million, I said quietly. "That's what the contract was worth, right, Rose? The one you couldn't risk losing by getting pregnant?" "You don't understand," Rose whispered. "My career was everything." "And my daughters were nothing?" I stood up. "You let me believe for 15 years that I was just an incubator. You made me feel guilty for wanting my own children." "We did what was best for the family," my father insisted. "Best for Rose, you mean?" Evan's voice was cold. "Like always." I pulled out one final document. "This is a restraining order. My lawyer filed it this morning. You don't contact me, my daughters, or anyone associated with us." "You can't do this!" My mother shot to her feet. Rose needs to live with her choices." I met my sister's desperate gaze. "Just like I've lived with mine." "They're my daughters, too." Rose tried to stand but stumbled. Our father caught her. "No, they're not. Legally, morally, or biologically, they're mine, and they know everything now." "You told them?" My mother's voice rose. "How could you?" "Because, unlike you, I don't build relationships on lies." I pressed the intercom. "Security will escort you out. Any further communication goes through my lawyer." "Betty." Rose reached for my hand. I stepped back. "Please, I'm scared." For a moment, I saw my sister as she used to be, before the modeling, before the lies, the girl who used to read me bedtime stories and braid my hair. But that sister was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. "I hope you find a donor match, Rose. I really do, but it won't be my daughters." Security arrived to escort them out. As they left, my mother turned back. "You'll regret this. When Rose dies," I interrupted. "It will be sad, but my conscience will be clear. Can you say the same?" After they left, Sarah and Evan moved to my side. "You okay?" Evan squeezed my shoulder. "No," I admitted, "but I will be." My phone lit up with a text from Mary. "Mom, Ari, and I made dinner. Well, we ordered pizza. Same thing, right? Love you." Looking at that message, I felt the weight of 15 years lift from my shoulders. The truth was finally out. The lies were exposed. And somewhere in the universe, karma was nodding in approval. "Come on," Sarah grabbed my purse. "Let's get you home to those amazing daughters of yours." Amazing indeed. And completely, undeniably, mine. The next morning, I found Ariana and Mary waiting in the kitchen, still in their pajamas despite it being nearly noon on a Saturday. "We want to meet them," Ariana announced without preamble. "Both of us," Mary added. "We talked about it all night." I set down my coffee mug. Are you sure? You don't owe them anything. We know, Ariana said, but we want to look them in the eye. Show them what they threw away. Mary nodded. Plus, I have some choice words for Aunt Rose about using you like that. Mary! I couldn't help but smile. No choice words necessary, but if you're sure about this... We are, they said in unison. 2 hours later, we sat in a private hospital conference room. Evan had arranged it, insisting on neutral ground. He stood by the door like a sentinel while Sarah sat beside me for moral support. When my parents entered with Rose, Mary grabbed my hand under the table. Ariana sat straighter, chin lifted in defiance. Girls, my mother breathed, tears forming. You're so beautiful. We look like our mom, Mary said pointedly. Our real mom. Rose flinched in her wheelchair. She looked even worse than yesterday, if that was possible. Please, she whispered. I know I don't deserve your help, but... You're right, Ariana cut in. You don't deserve our help. Do you know what we found last night? Old articles about your modeling career? The interviews where you talked about wanting children someday, while our mom was raising us alone? I was young, Rose protested. Scared of losing everything. So you made our mom lose everything instead? Mary's voice shook with anger. Her family, her support system, everything except us? We were trying to help everyone, my father started. Help everyone? Ariana laughed harshly. You threw Mom away like garbage, treated her like an incubator, and now you want our bone marrow because karma finally caught up with you? The room fell silent. Rose started crying. My mother reached for tissues, and my father looked like he'd been slapped. Girls, I said softly, you don't have to. No, Mom, we do. Mary stood up. Because they need to hear this. We're not their backup plan. We're not their second chance. We're your daughters, the ones you chose to keep and love when everyone else chose money and fame. The doctors say I have weeks, maybe days, Rose sobbed. Please, I'm begging you. Ariana stood too. Then use those days to make peace with your choices, because we've made peace with ours. We choose our mom, the one who was there for every skinned knee, every school play, every midnight fever, the one who worked double shifts to give us everything we needed. We're leaving now, Mary announced. Don't contact us again. Don't try to guilt us. We know who our family is, and it's not you. As my daughters walked out, heads held high, I saw myself in them, the strength I'd found 15 years ago to defy my family and choose love over obligation. Betty, my mother pleaded, talk to them, make them understand. They understand perfectly, I said, standing. They understand that family isn't about DNA or obligation, it's about choice, and they've made theirs. I'm dying, Rose whispered. Your daughters are letting me die. No, Rose, your choices are letting you die, the same choices that killed our relationship 15 years ago. I moved toward the door. I hope you find peace with that. Outside, I found my daughters hugging Evan and Sarah. You okay? I asked, pulling them close. Better than okay, Ariana said. I feel free. Like we finally got to stand up for you, Mary added. The way you stood up for us before we were even born. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. This can't be how our story ends. Looking at my daughters, strong and fierce and compassionate in all the ways that mattered, I knew she was wrong. This wasn't an ending at all. It was a beginning. One without lies, without manipulation, without guilt. Ice cream? I suggested. I think we all earned it. Mom, Mary rolled her eyes. It's not even 2 o'clock. Perfect time for ice cream, Evan chimed in. I know a place. As we walked out of the hospital, I felt lighter than I had in years. Sometimes the hardest choices are the right ones. Sometimes standing your ground means watching others fall. And sometimes karma doesn't need your help at all. 3 days after our confrontation, I was in surgery when Evan appeared in the observation window, gesturing urgently. I finished my final suture before stepping out. Rose coded this morning, he said without preamble. They brought her back, but she's on a ventilator now. I leaned against the wall, letting my surgical cap dangle from my fingers. How long? Days, maybe hours. Your mother's been calling the hospital nonstop. The restraining order is still in place, he assured me. But Betty, she's asking for you. Just you, not the girls. I closed my eyes, remembering the last time Rose had really asked for my help. Look how that turned out. I'll think about it. When I got home that evening, I found the girls in Mary's room, huddled over Mary's laptop. Mom, Ariana called out, come look at this. On the screen was an old YouTube video, Rose's last major interview before retiring from modeling. The timestamp showed it was from 14 years ago. I've always wanted children, Rose was saying, perfectly made up and poised. But sometimes life has other plans. My sister was kind enough to be our surrogate, but... She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. She became unstable, possessive. Sometimes the people you trust the most hurt you the deepest. Turn it off, I said quietly. We found dozens of these, Mary's voice shook with anger. She spent years painting you as the villain. While you were working night shifts to put food on our table, she was telling the world you were unstable. And now she's dying, Ariana added. Karma's not just a bitch, it's a precise one. Language, I said automatically, but my heart wasn't in it. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. Your mother's at my house. Says Rose is asking for forgiveness. What do you want me to do? Mom? Mary touched my arm. Are you going to see her? I don't know. I sank onto Mary's bed. Part of me wants to let her go without giving her the peace she's asking for. But that's not you, Ariana said softly. You're not them. You're better. We'll go with you, Mary offered. If you want. I looked at my daughters, so wise, so strong, so much better than the family that had thrown them away. No, I decided. This is something I need to do alone. Rose's hospital room was dim when I entered. The beeping monitors and whoosh of the ventilator created a rhythm that was all too familiar to me as a doctor. She looked tiny in the bed, nothing like the commanding presence she'd once been. Her eyes fluttered open when I approached. She couldn't speak around the breathing tube, but her hand moved weakly on the blanket. I took it, surprising us both. I'm here, I said simply. She fumbled for the notepad by her bed. Her handwriting was shaky. I'm sorry. I know. The girls? Are home. Safe. Loved. I kept my voice neutral. Which is where they've been for 15 years. Tears rolled down her sunken cheeks as she wrote, I was wrong. About everything. Yes, you were. Can't change past. But need you to know I'm proud. Of you. Of them. I felt my own tears starting. You should be. They're amazing. And they're mine. In every way that matters. I know. Her hand trembled as she wrote, You were always stronger. Better. I was jealous. The monitors started beeping faster. A nurse appeared in the doorway, but I waved her off. I knew what was coming. Rose, I said, leaning close, I forgive you. Not for you, but for me. I'm letting go of all of it. Her eyes filled with tears as she wrote one last shaky message. Thank you, little sister. The monitors started screaming 30 minutes later. I stepped back as the code team rushed in, but I knew it was too late. Rose was gone. In the hallway, I found Evan waiting. The girls? He asked. Called Sarah to stay with them. I let him pull me into a hug. She's gone. Are you okay? No, I admitted, but I will be. My phone lit up with a text from Mary. Love you, Mom. Come home soon. Home. To my real family. To the life I'd built from the ashes of betrayal. Let's go, Evan said gently. Your daughters are waiting. As we walked out, I realized something. Sometimes forgiveness isn't about the person you're forgiving. Sometimes it's about finally setting yourself free. 6 months after Rose's funeral, I sat in my backyard watching my daughters set up for their 16th birthday party. The autumn air was crisp and fairy lights twinkled in the growing dusk. Mom! Mary called from the patio. Evan's here with the cake. I smiled, watching him carefully balance an enormous box while navigating through the gate. Over the past months, he'd become a constant presence in our lives, his quiet support evolving into something more. Need help? I asked, taking the box. I've got it, he grinned, stealing a quick kiss. Though I'm still not sure why you let the girls talk you into a sweet 16 party. Because they deserve it, I said simply. Every normal teenage moment they can get. The party was in full swing when Sarah arrived, looking unusually serious. She pulled me aside. Your parents are at my house again, she said quietly. They want to give the girls something, from Rose. My chest tightened. What? Letters? She wrote them before, you know. And there's something else. She left the girls her estate. I watched Ariana and Mary laughing with their friends, so carefree and happy. What do you think? I think, Sarah said carefully, that you've raised two amazing young women who can make their own choices about their past. After the party, when the last guest had left and Evan was helping clean up, I gathered the girls on our old porch swing. Rose left you something, I said. Letters, and apparently her estate. They exchanged looks. What do you want us to do? Ariana asked. It's not my decision. You're old enough to choose. But you're our mom, Mary said firmly. Your opinion matters. I took a deep breath. I think sometimes the universe gives us chances, not to change the past, but to make peace with it. The next day, we met my parents at Sarah's house. They looked smaller somehow, grief and time having worn them down. My mother held out 2 envelopes and a legal document. She wrote these the night before. She trailed off. And she changed her will that same day. The girls took the letters, but left the will on the table. We don't want her money, Ariana said firmly. But, Mary added, we'll read what she wrote. My father stepped forward. We wanted to say, we were wrong, my mother finished, about everything, and we're sorry. Sorry doesn't fix 15 years, I said quietly. No, she agreed. But maybe we can try to fix the next 15. The girls looked at me, then at each other. Finally, Ariana spoke. We have conditions, she said. First, you acknowledge Mom as our only mother, always. Second, Mary continued, you respect our boundaries, no guilt trips, no manipulation. And third, they said together, you accept that we're a package deal, all or nothing. My parents nodded, tears streaming down my mother's face. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, I found the girls in our living room, Rose's letters open between them. She knew, Mary said softly, about being wrong, about karma. She wrote that watching us walk away that day made her finally understand what she'd thrown away. She said she hoped we'd grow up to be like you, Ariana added, strong enough to stand up for what's right. I pulled them close, breathing in the scent of their shampoo, feeling their hearts beat against mine. Mom? Mary's voice was muffled against my shoulder. Are we doing the right thing? Giving them another chance? I think, I said carefully, that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing to move forward carrying lessons instead of bitterness. The doorbell rang, Evan bringing the leftover cake he'd promised to save. Your timing is perfect, I called out as he entered. We're having a moment. Those seem to be happening a lot lately, he smiled, setting down the cake and joining our group hug. Looking around at my little family, my fierce, loving daughters, the man who'd stood by us through everything, the possibility of reconciliation with my parents, I felt a peace I hadn't known in 15 years. Sometimes karma comes to collect its debts. Sometimes it offers a chance at redemption, and sometimes, if you're very lucky, it gives you exactly what you need. Not the family you were born into, but the family you choose to build. Who wants cake? I asked. Mom, the girls groaned. It's midnight. Perfect time for cake, Evan winked. And it was. Perfect timing, perfect moment, perfect life, not despite our scars, but because of them. The end. The silk dress feels like a straitjacket against my skin. Mother stands behind me, her fingers working methodically to fasten each delicate button running down my spine. In the mirror, I watch her face, serene, focused, completely oblivious to my silent rebellion tucked away in my closet. There. She steps back, admiring her handiwork. You look exactly like your sister now. I'm Clara, and that's precisely the problem. The pale blue designer dress she's chosen matches Emma's perfectly. Another set of identical outfits for the identical Thompson twins. At 28, you'd think we'd have outgrown this particular form of torture. I need to finish getting ready, I say, keeping my voice neutral. Wouldn't want to be late for Father's big night. Mother's lips curve into a practiced smile. Such a thoughtful daughter. The governor himself will be at the gala. Your father's research grant announcement is quite the achievement. The moment she leaves, I lock my bedroom door and retrieve the garment bag hidden behind my photography equipment. Inside is my real outfit for tonight, a vintage black jumpsuit with a plunging neckline that would give Mother heart palpitations. I've been planning this for weeks. My phone buzzes. Emma, don't do anything stupid tonight. I delete the message without responding. Of course she knows. Emma always knows. Just like she knew about Dylan before I told anyone. Just like she probably knows about the photos I found in Father's study last week. The jumpsuit slides on like armor. I apply dark lipstick, smoky eyes, everything Mother specifically warned against. The woman in the mirror looks dangerous, alive, nothing like the demure daughter in family portraits. Downstairs, voices echo through the mansion, early arrivals for the pre-gala gathering. I check my phone again, 7:15 p.m., right on schedule. I take a deep breath and open my bedroom door. The hallway stretches before me like a runway, family photos watching from their perfect frames. Mother's voice carries up the stairs, that special tone reserved for impressing guests. Clara, everyone's waiting, darling. I descend the stairs slowly, savoring each sharp intake of breath as people notice me. Conversation dies. Mother's face goes slack with horror. Emma, pristine in her pale blue dress, watches me with a mixture of pity and resignation. Father emerges from his study, already frowning. Clara, what is the meaning of this? Just expressing myself, I say sweetly. Isn't that what you always encouraged, Father, being true to ourselves? His jaw tightens. Several guests suddenly become very interested in their drinks. Mother steps forward, voice low and dangerous. Go change. Immediately. No. The word hangs in the air like a gunshot. Emma winces. I said, go change. Mother's fingers dig into my arm. I pull away. Touch me again, and I'll tell everyone exactly why Rachel Bennett resigned from the hospital board last month. Father goes very still. Emma's eyes widen. She didn't know about that one. You wouldn't dare, Mother hisses. Try me. I move past her toward the drink table, aware of every eye in the room following me. This is just the beginning. The whispers start immediately. I pour myself a generous glass of champagne, noting how the other guests subtly edge away from me. Perfect. Let them talk. Let them wonder what other secrets this family is hiding. Father disappears back into his study. Mother makes a show of laughing it off to their friends, but her hands shake as she straightens her pearl necklace. Emma just stares at me, something like fear flickering across her face. I raise my glass in her direction. To family, I mouth silently. This is how it starts. Not with a bang, but with a carefully chosen outfit and 20 years of resentment finally boiling over. By the time I'm done, the perfect Thompson family facade will be nothing but ashes, and I'm going to enjoy every moment of watching it burn. 3 days after the gala disaster, Emma corners me in my darkroom. The red safety light casts shadows across her face as she watches me develop prints from Father's event, particularly the ones capturing Mother's mortification and his barely contained rage. You're playing with fire, she says, picking up a still wet photo. Rachel Bennett called the house this morning. My hands stay steady as I work, but my pulse quickens. Did she? How fascinating. Stop it, Clara. Whatever game you're playing, you need to end it now. I hang another print, this one showing Father deep in conversation with Rachel at the gala. You always were terrible at games, Emma. Remember when I used to let you win at chess? This isn't chess. She steps closer, lowering her voice. I know about the hospital records you accessed using my login credentials. The chemical-laden air suddenly feels thicker. I turn to face my mirror image, searching for any trace of the sister I used to confide in. Interesting accusation. Did Mother put you up to this little intervention? I'm trying to protect you. Like you protected Father when you caught him with Rachel last year? Emma's face drains of color. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I snatch the photo from her hands. The golden child, always covering for Daddy's indiscretions. Tell me, does it ever get exhausting being so perfect? At least I'm not deliberately trying to destroy our family. A knock at the door interrupts us. Dylan peers in, his camera bag slung over one shoulder. Bad time? Emma's expression shifts instantly, picture-perfect smile in place. Dylan, how lovely to see you. I was just leaving. She pauses at the door. Think about what I said, Clara, please. Once she's gone, Dylan wraps his arms around me from behind. Everything okay? Perfect. I lean into him, breathing in his familiar scent of leather and darkroom chemicals. How was the gallery meeting? Actually, that's why I'm here. He spins me around, eyes bright with excitement. They want to feature your work, the series about family dynamics you've been shooting? They're calling it revolutionary. My heart races. When? Next month. Opening night coincides with your father's charity fundraiser. I pull back slightly, studying his face. You knew about the timing? Dylan shrugs. Happy accident? Unless you want to use it? The possibilities unfold in my mind like negatives developing in solution. Father's biggest donors will be at that fundraiser, the same people who worship the ground he walks on. And if they happen to see a different side of the Thompson family legacy, Dylan trails off, letting me connect the dots. I walk to my work table, spreading out the photos I've been collecting. Father with Rachel, mother's carefully constructed masks, Emma's complicity, my own calculated rebellion. They're not just family photos anymore, I murmur. They're evidence. Dylan picks up one of the prints, a particularly damning shot of father leaving Rachel's house at dawn. Are you sure you want to go this far? Why shouldn't I? They've spent years crafting the perfect public image. Maybe it's time people saw the truth. He sets down his camera bag, pulling out his laptop. Then let's make it count. I've been working on a concept for the installation. Multiple perspectives like fragments of a broken mirror. As he shows me his ideas, I feel something shift inside me. This isn't just about rebellion anymore. It's about exposure, justice, the truth I've been suffocating under for years. My phone buzzes, another text from Emma. Mother's planning a family dinner tomorrow. Damage control. Don't make things worse. I show Dylan the message. He raises an eyebrow. Going? Of course. I start gathering the photos, mind already racing ahead. Every family dinner is just another opportunity to document our perfect dysfunction. Clara. Dylan catches my hand. Just be careful. Once you start down this path, I know exactly what I'm doing. I cut him off with a kiss, tasting the lie on my own lips. Trust me. As he leaves, I return to my dark room. In the red light, I study the latest print of Emma, the moment she realized I knew her secrets too. My twin, my opposite, my unwitting accomplice in what's to come. Tomorrow's dinner will be just the beginning. Let them think they can control the narrative. I've got other plans developing. The family dinner feels like a minefield. Mother's crystal glasses catch the chandelier light as father drones on about his latest surgical breakthrough. I'm barely listening, focused instead on the manila envelope hidden in my bag beneath the table. Clara's photography exhibition opens next month, Emma announces, her voice honey-sweet with hidden barbs. The same night as your fundraiser, Father. The surgical story stops mid-sentence. Father's fork pauses halfway to his mouth. I wasn't aware you were still pursuing that hobby. It's not a hobby. I take a slow sip of wine. The gallery thinks my work captures something raw about family dynamics, particularly in medical dynasties. Mother's hand tightens around her water glass. Surely you can reschedule. Actually, several hospital board members have already RSVP'd to my opening. I watch Father's face carefully. Rachel Bennett included. The crystal in Mother's hand cracks. A thin line appears, spreading like a spider web. Mark, perhaps you should speak with Rachel about maintaining appropriate boundaries. Laura, Father warns, but I'm already reaching into my bag. Speaking of boundaries, I slide the envelope onto the table. I found these while organizing my darkroom files. Emma goes very still. She knows what's coming. She's seen the hospital records I accessed through her login. Father reaches for the envelope, but I pull it back. Careful, these might upset Mother's digestion, though probably not as much as finding out about the malpractice settlements you've been hiding. That's enough. His voice carries that familiar surgical precision, the tone that used to make me flinch, not anymore. 3 patients, Father, 3 families paid to keep quiet about your mistakes. And Rachel helped cover it up, didn't she? Right before her convenient resignation? Mother stands abruptly, her chair scraping against hardwood. Emma, help me clear the plates. Stay, Emma. My voice cuts through the tension. You knew too, didn't you? Found out last year when you walked in on Father and Rachel discussing the latest payoff? Emma's face crumples. Clara, please. Tell them what you told me that day, about how protecting the family name matters more than the truth. Father slams his hand on the table. Wine glasses rattle. You have no idea what you're talking about. Don't I? I pull out one photo, slide it across the mahogany surface. It shows him leaving Rachel's house at dawn, his tie askew. Funny how often medical consultations happen at sunrise. Mother snatches up the photo, tears it in half. You ungrateful... Ungrateful? I laugh, the sound sharp as broken glass. For what? The privilege of watching you sweep everything under your Persian rugs? The honor of pretending we're perfect while Father plays God with people's lives? Your father saves lives, Mother hisses. Everything he does, everything we do, is to maintain the reputation that allows him to help people. Help people like Jessica Martinez? The name drops like a bomb. Father goes white. 28 years old, dead on your operating table because you were distracted by personal matters. Rachel helped backdate the consent forms, didn't she? Emma reaches for my hand. Stop this, you're hurting everyone. I pull away from her touch. That's rich coming from you. Tell me, how does it feel being the family's favorite conscience? Enough! Father stands, his authority filling the room. Clara, if you continue down this path... You'll what? Cut me off? Pretend I don't exist? That would require acknowledging my existence in the first place. I stand, gathering my things. The envelope stays on the table, a paper grenade waiting to explode. The exhibition opens at 8 next month, same time as your fundraiser. I look each of them in the eye. Choose wisely which truth you want the world to see. As I reach the door, Emma calls out, Clara, wait! I turn back one last time. Mother clutches the torn photograph, Father grips the envelope, and Emma stands frozen between them, our family tableau in perfect dysfunction. You know what's funny? My voice sounds distant, even to myself. I actually thought finding proof would hurt more, but now I just feel free. The door closes behind me with a soft click. Through the stained glass, I watch their shadows move like actors in a tragedy. My phone buzzes, Dylan asking how it went. I don't respond. Instead, I take out my camera and capture one final shot through the window. 3 figures in a gilded cage, their perfect world beginning to crack. The truth, it turns out, makes an excellent revenge. Professor Simmons studies the gallery layout sketches spread across his desk, his expression unreadable. These images tell quite a story, Clara, though perhaps not the one you think. I've spent the morning showing him my exhibition plans, seeking validation, maybe absolution. Instead, his words hit like ice water. What do you mean? He picks up the photo of Father and Rachel. Your technical skill is exceptional, but there's something desperate in these compositions, like you're trying to prove something. I'm exposing the truth. Are you? He sets down the photo, fixes me with that penetrating stare that made him famous in the art world. Or are you creating a new fiction? Before I can respond, my phone buzzes. Dylan, emergency at the gallery, come now. The gallery is chaos when I arrive. Water drips from the ceiling, pooling around carefully arranged frames. Dylan stands amid the wreckage, talking to a maintenance worker. Pipe burst, he explains, running fingers through wet hair, right above where your father's series was meant to hang. My stomach twists. Coincidence? The pipe was deliberately damaged. He lowers his voice. Security footage shows someone who looks remarkably like Emma. The betrayal hits harder than I expected. Show me. The footage is grainy but unmistakable, my mirror image, methodically destroying my carefully laid plans. As I watch, Dylan's hand finds mine. We can still salvage this. Move the exhibition, maybe even... No! I pull away, an idea forming. We use this. Clara, think about it. The perfect daughter sabotaging her twin's art show to protect Daddy's reputation? That's a better story than anything I planned. His silence speaks volumes. When he finally responds, his voice carries an edge I've never heard before. You're starting to sound like them. I'm nothing like them. No? He gestures at the water-damaged prints. Manipulation? Secrets? Seems pretty familiar. Before I can argue, Rachel Bennett walks in. She surveys the damage with clinical detachment, then turns to me. We need to talk. Dylan starts to protest, but I wave him off. Rachel leads me to a quiet corner, her heels clicking against wet concrete. Your father asked me to deliver a message. She hands me an envelope. Inside is a check with more zeros than I've ever seen. Walk away now. No exhibition, no expose, no more threats. He's trying to buy my silence? He's trying to protect you. Something flickers across her face. Pain, maybe regret. You don't know everything, Clara. About Jessica Martinez, about what really happened that day. I know enough. Do you? She pulls out her phone, shows me a photo I've never seen. My father, 20 years younger, standing with a woman who could be my twin. This was Jessica's mother. Ask yourself why your father can barely look at you. The world tilts sideways. I grab the wall for support, pieces clicking into place with nauseating clarity. Father's distance, mother's resentment, Emma's desperate need to be perfect. The truth you're chasing? Rachel's voice sounds far away. It's uglier than you imagine. Are you sure you want to destroy everyone to get it? I think of Professor Simmons's words about desperate compositions, about creating new fictions, about what we choose to see versus what's really there. The exhibition opens in 2 weeks, I say finally. Tell my father he can keep his money. And Rachel, next time he sends a messenger, make sure they don't have their own secrets to protect. Her composure cracks, just for a moment. She leaves without another word, her exit as precise as her entrance. Dylan appears at my side. You okay? No. I look at the ruined gallery, at the fragments of the story I thought I was telling. But I will be. I pull out my camera, start photographing the destruction. Water droplets catching light. Damaged frames creating new patterns. The story changing shape before my eyes. What are you doing? Dylan asks. Rewriting the narrative. I adjust the aperture, focus on a torn photograph floating in a puddle. Father's face bisected by the tear. They want to destroy my truth? Fine. I'll show them what destruction really looks like. The camera clicks, capturing the moment everything changes. Sometimes the best revenge isn't exposing secrets, it's creating new ones. The anonymous email arrives at midnight. Your sister isn't as perfect as she seems. Check the hospital's financial records, 2018. I've spent 3 hours digging through Emma's old files, my hands shaking as I piece together the truth. Patient records altered, prescriptions modified, money transferred to offshore accounts, all under Emma's login credentials. My phone lights up. Dylan. Where are you? The gallery opening's in 3 days. I ignore it, focusing on the screen. Emma's digital fingerprints are everywhere, but something feels off. The patterns are too obvious, too careless for my methodical twin. A soft knock makes me jump. Professor Simmons stands in my studio doorway holding a manila envelope. Interesting timing, he says, stepping inside. Your father just resigned from the hospital board. What? He hands me the envelope. Inside are photos, surveillance stills from the hospital parking garage. Emma meeting with Rachel Bennett, money changing hands, dates stamped in the corner, 2018. Where did you get these? Your partner's quite resourceful. Simmons studies my reaction. Dylan's been gathering evidence for months, though I suspect he's not just doing it for you. The pieces click together with sickening clarity. Dylan's sudden interest in my family drama, his push for the exhibition, the convenient timing of every revelation. He's writing a book, I whisper. Simmons nods. True crime expose, The Thompson Legacy, Medicine, Murder, and Money. Quite the catchy title. My phone buzzes again. Emma. We need to talk now about Dylan. The drive to Emma's apartment feels surreal. She opens the door before I knock, pulls me inside. Her perfect composure has cracked, hair disheveled, eyes red. I tried to protect you, she says. Everything I did was to protect you. By falsifying records? By keeping father's secrets, she paces, agitated. Rachel threatened to expose everything, about Jessica Martinez, about mother's breakdown, about why he can barely look at you. I couldn't let that happen. So you paid her off. I created a paper trail, made it look like embezzlement. She stops, faces me. But someone else accessed those records recently, using my credentials. The anonymous email burns in my pocket. Dylan. He's been playing us both, Clara, setting us against each other while he builds his story. She pulls out her phone, shows me an email. His publisher contacted father yesterday, offered to bury the story for a price. My carefully constructed revenge plot crumbles. I've been so focused on exposing my family's lies, I missed the betrayal right beside me. The exhibition is exactly what he needs. Your photos, your testimony, your pain, all perfect material for his book. Emma's voice softens. You're not the only one seeking revenge, Clara. My phone buzzes. Dylan again. Where are you? We need to finalize the gallery layout. What are you going to do? Emma asks. I look at the surveillance photos, at the evidence of my sister's desperate attempt to protect our family, at the proof of Dylan's manipulation. Change the narrative. I start deleting files from my laptop, my hands steady now. Emma watches, understanding dawning in her eyes. The exhibition opens in 3 days, I say. But it won't be the show anyone's expecting. Clara! You protected me once. I meet her gaze, my mirror image, my opposite, my ally. Now it's my turn. My phone buzzes one last time. Dylan. Everything okay? I type back. Perfect. Just making final adjustments. This story needs the ending it deserves. Emma picks up one of the surveillance photos, studies it. We're still lying, still manipulating. No. I take the photo, tear it in half. We're finally telling the truth, just not the one they're expecting. The torn pieces flutter to the floor like autumn leaves. Outside, storm clouds gather. In 3 days, everything changes. But this time, I'm not just seeking revenge, I'm rewriting the whole damn story. Opening night. The gallery buzzes with anticipation, champagne glasses tinkling like wind chimes before a storm. I stand in the shadows watching Dylan work the crowd, his practiced charm drawing them in. He doesn't know what's coming. Neither does my family. The exhibition space is divided into 2 rooms. The first displays the photos everyone expects, carefully curated evidence of my father's indiscretions, Emma's complicity, mother's denial, Dylan's masterpiece of manipulation. But the second room holds the truth. Quite a turnout. Professor Simmons appears beside me, studying the gathering crowd. Your father just arrived, with Rachel Bennett. My hands clench around my camera. And mother? In the parking lot, having what appears to be a breakdown. Emma's with her. Perfect timing. Everything's falling into place, just not the way Dylan planned. He catches my eye across the room, raises his champagne glass. I force a smile, remembering the manuscript I found on his laptop last night. The final chapter already written, ending with my family's spectacular downfall at this very exhibition. The crowd shifts as father enters, Rachel close behind. They pause at the first photograph, father leaving her house at dawn. His face remains impassive, but Rachel's hands shake as she reaches for a drink. Ladies and gentlemen, Dylan's voice cuts through the murmur. If you'll follow me, we'll begin the official tour. I slip away as he leads them through the first room, each image a carefully constructed narrative of family betrayal. My phone vibrates. Emma. Mother's coming in. Whatever you're planning, don't. Too late. The group reaches the doorway to the second room. Dylan starts his rehearsed speech about artistic truth and family secrets, then stops dead. Because the walls aren't filled with what he expected. Instead of father's scandal, there are screenshots of Dylan's manuscript, his emails to publishers, his staged photos, his calculated manipulation of every moment leading to this night. And at the center, blown up to massive scale, the contract he signed 3 months ago, promising a tell-all book about the Thompson family's destruction. What is this? His voice cracks. The real story. I step into the light. About a man so desperate for fame he orchestrated an entire family's downfall for a book deal. The crowd shifts uncomfortably. Father moves closer to the walls, reading Dylan's words about how he planned to use my pain, my revenge, my trust. Clara. Dylan reaches for me. I can explain. Can you explain this? I project his laptop files onto the back wall. Every manipulated photo, every staged moment, every lie he fed me about justice and truth. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. The words echo my conversation with Emma, but now they carry different weight. You wanted a story about revenge? Congratulations, you got one. Mother appears in the doorway, Emma supporting her. But instead of the breakdown I expected, she stands straight, composed. Understanding passes between us, a first. Mr. Reed, Father's surgical precision cuts through the silence. I believe my lawyers will be contacting your publisher. Dylan's face contorts. You're making a mistake, Clara. Everything I wrote about them is true. Maybe. I raise my camera, capture his moment of desperation. But you forgot something crucial about revenge. What's that? It works both ways. The gallery erupts in chaos. Dylan lunges for the projector, but security, arranged by Emma, intercepts him. Reporters who came expecting one scandal find another. Father leads Mother out quietly, dignity intact. Rachel Bennett slips away unnoticed. Emma catches my arm as I head for the exit. Was it worth it? I look at the wreckage. My relationship, my exhibition, my carefully planned vengeance all turned to ash. Ask me tomorrow. Clara, Dylan calls out as security escorts him past. You'll regret this. I'm not the only one with secrets. He's right. There are still unopened doors, untold truths, father's connection to Jessica Martinez, mother's hidden past, Emma's own manipulations, but standing in the ruins of my revenge, watching the man I loved being led away in handcuffs, I realized something devastating. I've become exactly what I hated, someone who destroys lives in the name of truth. The camera feels heavy in my hands. One last photo to take, my own reflection in the gallery window, unrecognizable in the dark glass. Tomorrow, the real damage will begin. Tonight, I stand alone in the aftermath, wondering if revenge ever brings the freedom we think it will. The police release Dylan at dawn. I watch from my car as he emerges, disheveled but defiant. He spots me immediately, as if he knew I'd be waiting. Come to finish what you started? He slides into the passenger seat, smelling of stale coffee and defeat. Why Jessica Martinez? His laugh is hollow, finally asking the right questions. Answer me. Your father didn't kill her. Dylan pulls out his phone, shows me a photo I've never seen. Father kneeling beside a hospital bed, holding the hand of a woman who could be my twin. He tried to save her, but Rachel Bennett? She made a mistake during surgery. Your father covered it up. The steering wheel feels cold under my fingers. And Emma knew? Emma found the records, created a paper trail pointing to your father instead of Rachel, protecting the family name, she said. He watches my reaction. But that's not the real story, is it, Clara? My phone buzzes. Emma, where are you? Mother's in the hospital. Your mother had an affair 28 years ago, Dylan continues, with Rachel Bennett's brother. 9 months later, twins were born. The world tilts sideways. You're lying. Am I? Why do you think Rachel's been so invested in your family? Why your father can barely look at you? He reaches for my camera in the back seat. The exhibition wasn't about exposing your father's secrets. It was about exposing yours. I grab his wrist before he can touch my equipment. You used me. We used each other. His fingers brush my cheek, and we're not done yet. The hospital looms ahead, its windows reflecting the rising sun. Emma waits outside, perfect posture cracking when she sees Dylan. What is he doing here? Tell her, Dylan urges. Tell her what you really found in those hospital records. Emma's face pales. Clara, don't. Rachel Bennett isn't just father's colleague, is she? The words taste like ash. She's our aunt. The morning air grows thick with unspoken truths. Emma's hands shake as she reaches for her phone. Mother's asking for you, she whispers. Both of you, a voice adds. Rachel Bennett stands in the doorway, looking older than I've ever seen her. It's time you knew everything. Dylan moves to follow, but I block his path. This isn't your story anymore. Everything's a story, Clara. His smile turns cruel. And this one's far from over. Inside, Mother lies small against white sheets. Father sits beside her, head bowed, the perfect family portrait finally cracking. I wanted to tell you, Mother starts. Save it. I pull out my camera, start documenting. Click. Father's flinch. Click. Emma's tears. Click. Rachel's guilt. Let's hear the truth for once. Your father isn't Mark Thompson. Rachel's voice fills the silence. But he chose you both anyway. Chose this family, despite everything. Chose to lie, I counter. Chose to love, Father speaks finally. Even when it broke him. Emma reaches for my hand. For once, I don't pull away. The exhibition, Dylan calls from the doorway. Opens again tonight, new photos, new story, your choice, Clara. The camera weighs heavy in my hands, a lifetime of captured lies frozen in silver and light. You want revenge? Rachel steps forward. Take it, destroy everything, but ask yourself, what will you have left? My phone lights up with notifications. Dylan's already posting teasers online, feeding the scandal. The Thompson family legacy unraveling in real time. Click. Mother's resignation. Click. Emma's determination. Click. Father's quiet dignity. Clara, Emma's voice breaks. We're still sisters. That truth hasn't changed. The morning sun catches my lens, creating prisms across the hospital room. Through the viewfinder, I see us all clearly for the first time, broken, flawed, but still somehow family. I lower the camera. You're right, I tell Dylan. Everything's a story. But this one's mine to tell. His face darkens. You'll regret this. Maybe, I delete the morning's photos one by one, but at least it'll be my choice. The door closes behind him with finality. In the silence that follows, truth hangs heavy as morning fog. "Now what?" Emma whispers. I look at my fractured family, the only truth that matters anymore. Now we start over. Through the window, dawn breaks over the city, a new story beginning whether we're ready or not. The gallery feels different in winter light. My new exhibition, Family Fragments, opens tonight. No scandals, no revenge, just truth captured in silver and shadow. Dylan's book hit shelves last week. His version of events twisted into perfect tragedy. I haven't read it. Instead, I developed these photos. Father teaching Emma to suture oranges when we were 10. Mother's hands braiding my hair before dawn. Rachel Bennett's brother, my biological father, in his military uniform, forever frozen at 25. Ready? Emma adjusts a frame slightly, her perfectionism unchanged. She's wearing black tonight, matching me for once. Almost. I check my phone. No messages from Mother. She's still in treatment, learning to live with her own truths. Father visits her daily, proving love survives even when perfection shatters. Professor Simmons arrives first, studying each image with careful consideration. "You found your voice," he says finally, though perhaps not the one you expected. Nothing turned out as expected. I watch the gallery fill with familiar faces, hospital staff, university colleagues, even Rachel Bennett, standing before a photo of her brother with quiet dignity. The centerpiece catches everyone's attention, a triptych of the Thompson family, past, present, future. In the middle panel, Emma and I stand back to back, mirror images finally embracing their differences. Father and Mother occupy the edges, their poses suggesting both distance and connection. "Quite different from your last exhibition," Dylan's voice cuts through the murmur. He looks expensive, successful, his book tour clearly paying off. Though I suppose truth sells better than revenge. "You'd know." I turn to face him. "How's the sequel coming along?" "There's always more stories to tell." He gestures to the photos. Like why Rachel Bennett really left the hospital, or what happened to all that missing money. "Some stories aren't yours to tell." "Everything's a story, Clara, you taught me that." Emma appears between us, steel beneath her smile. "The press would love to hear about your creative writing process, Dylan, especially the part about fabricating evidence." He retreats, but his words linger. There are always more secrets, more vengeance waiting in the wings. The cycle never really ends. Father arrives last when the crowd has thinned. He stops before each photo, taking his time. I watch him discover our family through my lens. The pain, the love, the complicated truth of who we've become. "Jessica would have been proud," he says finally. "You never talk about her." Some grief doesn't need words. He touches the frame holding her hospital photo. "She knew, at the end, about Rachel's mistake, about your mother's affair. She made me promise to protect you both." By lying? By loving you enough to let you find your own truth. The gallery lights dim, signaling closing time. Emma helps the staff clear wine glasses, while Rachel and Father share a quiet conversation by the exit. Our fractured family, finding new ways to fit together. I pack up my camera, but pause at the triptych. Something catches my eye, a detail I never noticed while shooting. In each panel, despite everything, we're all leaning slightly toward each other, gravity pulling us back together, even as we try to break apart. "Clara," Rachel approaches, holding an envelope. "There's something you should know about your biological father." "Not tonight." I tuck the envelope away unopened. Some truths can wait. The winter air bites as we leave. Emma links her arm through mine, a gesture from childhood that feels both foreign and familiar. "Dylan's right, you know," she says. "There are more stories, more secrets. Let them stay secret." I look back at the gallery, at the life I've captured in light and shadow. We have enough truth for now. Father holds the car door open, a small gesture, but one he never made before. Mother's empty seat between us speaks volumes about healing and time. My camera sits heavy in my lap. One last photo begs to be taken. Our imperfect family heading home through darkness, finally facing the same direction. But some moments don't need capturing. Some truths live better in memory than film. The city lights blur as we drive. Behind us, the gallery stands dark, my fragments of truth waiting for tomorrow's viewers. Ahead, more stories wait to be discovered, more secrets to be kept or shared. For now, this is enough, this delicate balance of truth and silence, revenge and forgiveness, family and freedom. For now, we drive home together through the gathering night.